Chapter 49:15. Yes, yes. Old Xiao hurriedly carried old Li, who was smoking, and hurriedly ran faster than a rabbit, for fear that Lin Yi would suddenly change his mind. Lin Yi didn't even look at the two as he turned to Enai Kaiwa, who was still hiding behind him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They're long gone. Why are you still hiding? Ah, ran away. Enai Kaiwa poked her head out to take a look. Sure enough, old Xiao and old Li were nowhere to be seen. She finally breathed a sigh of relief, patted her chest, and said, "Great, we finally scared them away. These two people are as fierce as Chang Lading." Lin Yi gave her another sidelong glance. He didn't know whether he should laugh or cry when he was with this Enai girl, but it was also a pleasant surprise at the same time. Every now and then, she'd do something that would make a man's nose bleed, and the main thing was that this girl didn't even know it. "Thank you for helping me, young hero. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble this time." Enai Kaiwa thanked Lin Yi with lingering fear. Fortunately, she knew that Lin Yi was here. Otherwise, she wouldn't even have someone to ask for help. The consequences of falling into the hands of old Xiao and old Li would be unimaginable. "I say, what's the matter with you? Didn't I just help you get rid of Chang Lading? How did you get caught up again?" Lin Yi asked with some speechlessness. "These two people are called old Xiao and old Li. They are with Chang Lading. When they came in, they were with Chang Lading. But I don't know why, when Chang Lading came to chase me, he seemed to get rid of them." And Kaiwa tilted her head and said, "This is normal. Chang Lading covets your mysterious cultivation grass. Of course, the fewer people who know about this, the better. Isn't he giving them a share by bringing them to chase you?" Lin Yi curled his lips. Of course, it was also because Enai Xiaonu didn't have much combat power, so she surrendered with a simple scare. Otherwise, Chang Lading wouldn't have left these two helpers behind if the situation was more troublesome. "Ah, so that's how it is. I thought they were lost." Enai Kaiwa had a look of sudden realization. "Apart from you, I believe that no one who can come here will get lost easily. You can rest assured about this." Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. "Is that so?" Enai Kaiwa was stunned for a moment. She didn't realize that Lin Yi was teasing her. Instead, she nodded in agreement. Lin Yi shook his head, speechlessly. This little chick and I was really silly to a certain level. He could only continue to ask, "They chased you just because they met? Do you have a deep grudge against them? Otherwise, they wouldn't be so irreconcilable, right?" Enai Kaiwa was the third fairy, and she was also Chang Lading's cultivation partner in name. As Chang Lading's followers, they shouldn't have attacked her rashly. After I met them, they didn't want to catch me at first. They only asked me where Chang Lading went. In the end, I accidentally let it slip, and they found out about the mysterious cultivation grass. That's why they chased me like crazy. It's too scary. Enai Kaiwa was still scared until now. Lin Yi simply didn't know what to say. This little chick and I was indeed a natural lousy teammate. She could even let this kind of thing slip. She really deserved to be chased. But then again, like underlings. These two underlings of Chang Lading were just like Chang Lading. They were also profit-seeking perverts. Little Chick and I was indeed unlucky to meet these two. All right, they've been chased away anyways. You should be fine now, right? I'm leaving. Lin Yi looked at Enai Kaiwa and was about to leave to find Wang Xinyan and the others. But before he could take a step, Enai Kaiwa grabbed his sleeve, and in a panic, she tripped her right foot and tore off a part of Lin Yi's sleeve. At the same time, she fell into Lin Yi's embrace. Don't go." Enai Tsayue's first reaction wasn't to push Lin Yi away. Instead, she looked at Lin Yi pitifully. Hey, don't tease me." Lin Yi could only look up at the sky. He couldn't help it. Little Chick and I was squeezed in front of his chest. If he looked down, he would easily see something he shouldn't see. But even so, Lin Yi still had the reaction of a normal man with a soft and fragrant body in his arms. After all, the girl's body was too hot, and he could only shrink back awkwardly. Ah! Enai Kaiwa screamed and pushed Lin Yi away with a blushing face. Nonsense! How can a girl tease a man like you? Who says girls can't tease men? There are female gangsters. Lin Yi shook his head and laughed. Ah, female gangster? Enai Kaiwa was stunned. She tilted her head and thought for a long time before she understood. I'm not a female gangster. Not a female gangster? Then why did you tease me for no reason? You even tore off my sleeve. I just changed into a beggar's uniform. Lin Yi said helplessly. I didn't tease you. I just wanted to hold you. I didn't expect your sleeve to be so weak. Enai Kaiwa pouted. She was the one who tripped herself. Why was she blaming my sleeve for being weak? Lin Yi didn't know what to say in the face of such strong logic. Forget it. Then why did you hold me? I'm afraid they'll come to catch me again. Can you send me back? Enai Kaiwa said pitifully. Send you back? Lin Yi frowned. Not now. I haven't found my companions yet. Then I'll follow you. They won't dare to catch me. Enai Kaiwa said. What? Lin Yi paused. He didn't have any other plans right now, and he'd leave after finding Xinyan and the others. Bringing that Enai girl with him wouldn't be a problem, so he nodded helplessly. Up to you then. Great. You're a good man. Enai Kaiwa was overjoyed. A good man who hides his strength? Lin Yi looked at her. Yes. A good man who hides his strength. Enai Kaiwa nodded. Lin Yi staggered, almost falling to the ground. Meeting a girl with a unique imagination like this, he really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He'd saved her twice in a row, and now, he was a good guy who hid his true nature. Did he really look like a bad guy to her? With Enai Kaiwa tagging along, Lin Yi began to look for Wang Xinyan and the others. Of course, he also looked for Xian nurturing grass. Chapter 49:16. Lin Yi! Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's excited shouts came from afar, and Lin Yi turned his head to see the two girls pouncing at him without a care in the world. Lu Xiaozhong, on the other hand, was far behind them, unable to catch up at all. Xinyan! Xiaotao! Lin Yi went up to them excitedly, sighing inwardly. Thank goodness that thing was able to restrain the vengeful soul, or he'd be trapped in Lightning Burial City forever. He'd never be able to see his friends again. Are you all right? Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao examined Lin Yi from head to toe. There were some minor injuries on him, but they weren't serious. Only then did they relax. The name, Thunder Burial, was too frightening. They'd been worried about Lin Yi ever since they'd been separated from each other. I'm fine. Look, I'm fine. Lin Yi chuckled, not mentioning the vengeful soul at all. He didn't want the two girls to worry for nothing. Miss and I, why are you back? Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other in surprise when they noticed Enai Sayue's presence. Wow, Master Lin, you really are a dragon among men. You've managed to hook up with the third goddess in such a short amount of time. Lu Xiaozhong's words made Enai Kaiwa blush. No. He didn't hook up with me, it's me. Enai Kaiwa waved her hands frantically. Then you're the one who hooked up with Master Lin? Lu Xiaozhong slapped his thigh in realization. Ha. No wonder you two got together so quickly. There's a saying that when a girl hooks up with a guy, there's a thin veil between them. Ah, what do you mean by a thin veil? I didn't. Enai Kaiwa blushed. Her face was veiled, but even her ears were red. Then Master Lin did it? Lu Xiaozhong's gossipy soul was burning. He looked back and forth between Lin Yi and Enai Kaiwa, trying to get to the bottom of it. Shoo. What are you talking about? Lin Yi's head started to throb. This Enai girl's pig teammate trait was really quite troublesome. There was clearly nothing wrong with her, but anyone would think that there was something fishy going on with her messy answers. Even Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao had a mischievous look in their eyes. Wouldn't the rice be cooked if they kept guessing blindly? That's right, there's nothing between us. I didn't stab him and he didn't stab me. And Kaiwe angrily defended herself. Holy shit! Upon hearing this, Lin Yi almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by the more I explain, the worse it gets? This is called the more I explain, the worse it gets. Shut up, I'll say it. Lin Yi really couldn't stand everyone's meaningful gazes, so he had to personally explain. This chick was chased by 2 of Chang Lading's lackeys and fled back to this place to ask for help. She happened to meet me, so I helped her out. After that, she didn't dare to leave alone, so she followed me. That's right. That's why we didn't stab each other. And Tsayue's pig teammate Halo was everywhere, and Lin Yi could only stare at the sky speechless. Fortunately, everyone understood what had happened, and they looked at each other, not sure if they should laugh or cry. All right, did you get anything from this trip? Wang Xinyan changed the topic in time. She knew that there was nothing between the two, but she couldn't let Kaiwa continue, or the rice would really be cooked. No, there's only a mass grave. There's not even a single weed, let alone Xian grass. Lin Yi shook his head with a bitter smile and asked, How about you guys? We didn't find any Xian grasses, but at least we found some valuable herbs. It's better than nothing. Wang Xinyan and the others shook their heads. At the end of the day, Kaiwe was the only one in the group who found Xian grasses. They didn't know if they should say that the girl was extremely lucky or that she was a fool with a fool's luck. It wasn't an outcome they were willing to accept, but there was nothing they could do about it. This was how rare treasures worked, and only the fated could get them. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter how strong one was. If that's the case, then there's no need to force it. Let's go back. Lin Yi decided. There was still some time before the 1-month deadline, and he could still try his luck if he didn't want to, but the chances were slim. Staying here would be a waste of time. All right, Wang Xinyan and the others, naturally, didn't have any objections. You went down to the lightning grave? Isn't there no Xian grasses down there? Didn't they say that there were Xian grasses everywhere? And Kaiwe finally realized what was going on and asked Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at her helplessly. He understood now that the rumor that the Thunder Burial Ground had Xian cultivating grass was just a rumor. The person who spread the rumor probably hadn't even been to the basin before. They thought that there would be more Xian cultivating grass in the area, but it was just a beautiful misunderstanding. Lin Yi looked at Lin Yi helplessly. He knew that the Thunder Burial Ground had Xian cultivating grass. Is there or isn't there? And Kaiwe asked. There's your sister. Lin Yi rolled his eyes at her. Huh, I don't have a sister. And Kaiwe was stunned for a moment. Then she blushed and said, don't tell me you're talking about my part. Young hero, you're teasing me again. What are you talking about? Lin Yi looked at her, confused. He didn't understand what Kaiwe was talking about, but he understood when he saw her nervously covering her lower body. He glared at her, speechless. I'm going to F***CK, your sister. Ew, you really are a pervert. And Kaiwe took a few steps back and pointed at Lin Yi angrily. She looked like she was going to turn around and run at any moment. You're the pervert. Your whole family are perverts. Lin Yi was so mad at the girl. They were both human, but how could she be so imaginative? My whole family isn't perverts. And Kaiwe stuck her neck out and thought about it for a while. She quickly added, I'm not a pervert either. Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao, on the other hand, couldn't help but chuckle at the scene. Lin Yi, who'd always been calm and collected, was losing his mind over and over again in front of this stupid Kaiwe. Lin Yi was speechless. He slapped his forehead and said, I'm such a cheapskate. Why am I arguing with a silly girl like you? I'm not a silly girl. My name is Anai Kaiwe. Anai Kaiwe clarified with a serious face. Chapter 49:17. How can you be a silly girl? Anai Kaiwe stared at him blankly and suddenly exclaimed, "Ah, so you are a girl. I thought you were a man. Your disguise is so good. There is no flaw at all." Shit. Lin Yi was speechless, and Xinyan and the others were rocking back and forth with laughter. Lu Xiaozhong was on the ground, punching the ground as hard as he could, tears coming out of his eyes. "I can't talk to you. I'm leaving. Are you coming or not?" Lin Yi was too lazy to continue talking to this silly girl. If he continued, he might really suffer from internal injuries. "Let's go. Take me out, heroine." And Kaiwen nodded like a chick pecking rice and hurriedly followed. "Heroine?" Lin Yi staggered and fell to the ground. He was a man. When did he become a heroine? "You don't like to be called heroine?" And Kaiwa looked at him strangely and muttered to herself, "Since I am a girl, of course I am a heroine. That is what Master taught me." "Forget it. Since you don't like it, I will call you sister, or sister is fine too." Lin Yi had gone completely insane, and Xinyan and the others were laughing so hard that they didn't even have the energy to help him. Things were getting interesting now. The world no longer had a young hero Lin, but a little sis Lin. "Girl, listen to me. I am a man, a real man, not a heroine, and definitely not a sister or sister." Lin Yi had to clarify weakly. Talking to this silly girl was really a troublesome thing. He really couldn't keep up with her strange thinking. "Ah, then why do you call yourself a silly girl? You are such a strange person." And Kaiwe looked up and down at Lin Yi, as if she was watching a pervert. Lin Yi pointed at her for a long time, choked, and finally gave up the idea of clarifying himself, and said helplessly, "Are you going or not? So much nonsense. Let's go." "Of course we're going. I've been wanting to go back for a long time." And Kaiwa nodded. "Then what's in it for me?" Lin Yi suddenly thought of something. He stopped and turned to look at her meaningfully. "Benefits?" And Kaiwa was stunned for a moment. She suddenly exclaimed and covered her chest with both hands. She looked at Lin Yi with a vigilant face and stammered, "You? What benefits do you want?" "Master said that I would rather die than obey him." Lin Yi was speechless. He held his forehead and said helplessly, "What are you thinking about? As a chick, can your thoughts be a little more pure?" "You're teasing me again." And Kaiwe looked at Lin Yi angrily. Lin Yi's temper had always been good, but dealing with this silly chick, he had already lost count of how many times he wanted to go crazy. He hurriedly took a deep breath to calm himself down, and went straight to the point. "Let's not talk so much. Let me ask you, after you take out the profound, nurturing grass, who are you going to find to help you refine the profound, nurturing pill?" "Of course, I'll hand it over to Master." "Then she'll find the Academy's alchemists. The others don't know how to refine the profound, nurturing pill." And Kaiwe said as a matter of fact. "Then what price do you have to pay?" Lin Yi asked again. "Price?" And Kaiwe subconsciously covered her chest again and said with a vigilant face, "Master won't let me do that kind of thing. I won't do it even if I die." Everyone burst into laughter again. This silly chick was really a clown. Lin Yi said with a black face, "Who said that kind of thing?" "I'm saying that even if it's your Academy's alchemists, they won't refine pills for you for free. There must be a price, right?" "Oh, so you're referring to this." And Kaiwe then reacted. After thinking for a while, she said, "I heard Master mention it before. It seems that after the pill is refined, half will be given. If the refinement fails, then there's nothing left." "Then, how many profound nurturing pills can you refine from this profound nurturing grass?" Lin Yi asked again. "This." And Kaiwe tilted her head and thought for a long time. She carefully took out the profound nurturing grass from her bosom and gestured with her hands. After a long time, she looked at Lin Yi foolishly and said uncertainly, "It seems like it's enough for 4 portions? If my luck is good, I might be able to refine 4 profound, nurturing pills." For portions of ingredients, and you want to refine 4 profound, nurturing pills? Your Academy's alchemists have such great confidence in refining a 7th grade medicinal pill. Could it be that it's an absolute success? Lin Yi asked suspiciously. What's an absolute success? And Kaiwe tilted her head and thought for a long time. She roughly guessed Lin Yi's meaning and shook her head repeatedly. That's definitely impossible. Only if my luck is very good can I refine 4 pills. Normally, it's already not bad to refine 1 or 2. Since that's the case, then I'll refine it for you. I guarantee that I'll give you 3 profound, nurturing pills. What do you think? Lin Yi suggested. Are you serious? You're lying to me, right? And Kaiwe was shocked when she heard that. She wasn't really stupid. Even the Academy's head alchemist wouldn't dare to boast about this. Normal people wouldn't rashly believe a stranger that they had only met once. This fellow couldn't be trying to swindle her of the profound, nurturing grass, right? And Kaiwe hurriedly covered her chest again and looked at Lin Yi with a face of vigilance. Why would I lie to you? Lin Yi glanced at her helplessly and said indifferently, if I was really aiming for your profound, nurturing grass, I could just directly snatch it. Why would I need to go through so much trouble? Think about it yourself. Those mere weaklings chased you until you were in such dire straits. If I really wanted to snatch it from you, how much trouble do you think it would take? This. And Kaiwe, thought about it seriously for a moment. It seemed that what he said made sense. Suddenly, her small face tensed up and she said, Even so, you can't snatch it. I don't even want to snatch it. Lin Yi said with a black face. If it wasn't for the sake of getting a few profound, nurturing pills for himself and the others, he swore that he definitely wouldn't talk nonsense with a silly girl. It would really make him anxious to death. Oh, that's good. But can you really refine profound, nurturing pills? You don't even have a beard. And Kaiwe questioned again, whether or not I can refine profound, nurturing pills and whether or not I have a beard. What's the connection between these 2 things? Lin Yi couldn't help but be a little dazed when he heard that. Of course there's a connection. 7th grade alchemists are all white-bearded grandfathers. You're not one. And Kaiwe said matter-of-factly. Damn. Lin Yi almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Talking to this silly girl was really a matter that broke through the horizon, even when he was facing the vengeful spirit. He didn't have such a headache. To be honest, he really had the urge to leave now. What *T profound nurturing pills? Who cares? Chapter 49:18. And Kaiwe didn't have any more shocking ideas this time. She tilted her head and thought for a long time, then looked at Lin Yi and said, Can you bring me along without refining pills? No, Lin Yi answered cleanly. He couldn't talk too much with this silly girl, or he would get angry easily. Then. And Kaiwe didn't really believe that Lin Yi could really refine pills, but she was more afraid of going out alone. Although the spirit nurturing grass was precious, it shouldn't be a problem to use it as travel expenses, right? If others knew what Kaiwe was thinking at this time, they would be so angry that they would kill themselves. A good thing that a group of profound ascending stage masters couldn't even get their hands on was actually used as travel expenses. There should be a limit to wasting natural resources. But no matter what, this spirit nurturing grass was finally handed over to Lin Yi. Lin Yi couldn't help but look at her with some surprise. Although this silly girl could easily choke people to death, it wasn't without its benefits. At least if it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't hand over the spirit nurturing grass so easily. You guys wait here and keep watch for me, Lin Yi said, and found a relatively quiet place with the spirit nurturing grass. He He calmed himself down and started refining pills. All the supplementary materials needed to refine the profound raising pill were already prepared in the storage of spiritual herbs in the space within the jade pendant. This was also the reason why he suddenly made this suggestion. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thought of Aniying Hong. He's refining pills like this? Anai Kaiwe glanced at Lin Yi from afar and said with a strange expression, "Is he really trying to cheat me of this spirit-nurturing grass? He doesn't even have a cauldron. How is he going to refine pills? Liar." He really isn't lying. He always carries a cauldron with him. Wang Xinyan smiled. Really? But he's clearly empty-handed? Anai Kaiwe hadn't finished speaking when she saw a cauldron appear in front of Lin Yi. She was stunned and rubbed her eyes desperately. Am I seeing things? Where did that stove come from? Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and smiled. It was one thing for Wang Xinyan to see it, but they couldn't say it out loud. In fact, Lu Xiaozhong didn't understand either. With a puzzled expression, he said, "Master Lin is indeed Master Lin. He can even carry an alchemy furnace with him, and it's so amazing. As expected of Grandmaster Qing Danzi's master. He has an apprentice?" Kaiwe was even more shocked as she doubted. He's accepting disciples at such a young age? Isn't he afraid of misleading them? Misleading students? Lu Xiaozhong glanced at her disdainfully and said, "Master Qing Danzi is our Morning Star Academy's chief alchemist, a genuine level 7 alchemist. Even he is willing to become a disciple of Master Lin. Do you think this is misleading the students?" Ah. Anai Tsayue's mouth instantly formed an O shape. She was stunned for a long time before she weakly said, "I don't go out much, don't lie to me. You'll know soon enough if I'm lying or not. Come, let's find a place to sit and talk while we wait." Xinyan smiled. "Oh," Anai Kaiwa nodded obediently. Perhaps it was because of Xinyan's natural friendliness, but she didn't have any wariness toward Xinyan at all. She naturally felt close to Xinyan and didn't suspect anything like she did with Lin Yi. The group of people sat in the distance and waited. After 6 hours, Anai Kaiwa had completely become familiar with Xinyan and the others. She called each other big sister and little sister. Both Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao were very close to her. After all, her silly and cute personality was very lovable. Of course, this didn't include the crazy Lin Yi. "Yo, you guys are eating. Give me some." Lin Yi suddenly squeezed his butt in. Lu Xiaozhong hurriedly handed over the barbecued meat in his hand. This was a small spirit beast that he had caught nearby. The meat was fresh and tender, and the texture was very good. He thought that Lin Yi's alchemy would take a long time, so he decided to have an outdoor barbecue. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would finish before they even started eating. "You finished refining it so quickly? Are you lying to me?" Anai Kaiwe jumped up with an expression as if her intelligence had been severely insulted. She said angrily, "Even if you're lying to me, you should at least be serious. How can refining a mysterious raising pill be this fast? Even the alchemists in our school need a few days." Lin Yi didn't pay attention to her at all. As he ate the barbecued meat, he freed a hand in front of Anai Kaiwe. "What?" Anai Kaiwe jumped in fright. She quickly crossed her arms in front of her chest to protect herself. She pitifully begged, "If you're lying to me, then lie to me. Can you not hit me?" Lin Yi choked, almost choking to death on the spot. He struggled for a long time before opening his palms. "Who's going to hit you? See for yourself." "Oh," Anai Kaiwe responded weakly. When she saw the thing in Lin Yi's hand, she was immediately stunned. She stuttered, This is a mysterious raising pill." 3 mysterious raising pills? At least you're not that stupid. Here, keep it yourself. I won't care if you lose it." Lin Yi casually threw the 3 pills to Anai Kaiwe, making the silly girl panic. She only managed to catch them after a moment of confusion. She looked at them with surprise and joy before carefully putting them away. There was only one stalk of mysterious raising grass, which was only enough for 4 sets of ingredients. But in a short 6 hours, 3 mysterious raising pills were made. This result shocked Anai Kaiwe. But what made her even more speechless was that Lin Yi gave Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao one each. That wasn't all. Lin Yi still had 2 in his hands. This meant that he'd made 7 mysterious raising pills in one go. Anai Kaiwe was going crazy. She had never seen the world before, but she knew what this meant. 4 sets of ingredients to make 7 mysterious raising pills. What kind of person was this? At this time, she looked at Lin Yi as if she was looking at a monster. Although she was far away and had been chatting with Wang Xinyan and the others, she didn't see the specific process of Lin Yi's pill making. But this wasn't important. Just this result alone was enough to shock the world. Young hero, who are you learning from? Why are you so powerful? Anai Kaiwe couldn't help but ask. Although she felt that Lin Yi was very powerful when he defeated Changlading, Old Xiao, and Old Li with ease. After all, these were not ordinary, early-stage, profound ascension masters. They were all strong people who could challenge above their level. It was not easy for Lin Yi to defeat them so easily, but all this only made her feel that he was powerful. She had never been so shocked. Chapter 49:19. Didn't I tell you long ago that I'm from the North Island? Why are you so dull? Is your memory bad? Lin Yi glanced at her and said, You. Anai Kaiwe was so anxious that she didn't know how to refute. She tilted her head and thought for a long time. Suddenly her eyes lit up and she said, I remember now. What? You finally remember that I said I'm from the North Island? Your reflex arc is really long, Lin Yi said with a smile, somewhat speechless. No. I remember Master once said that there's a very powerful super expert in the North Island. His name seems to be... Anai Kaiwe choked halfway. What's his name? The first person that came to Lin Yi's mind at this moment was Ram Jie, the head of the law enforcement hall. This legendary figure of the young generation in the North Island had given Lin Yi a strong and inexplicable pressure since the first time he heard of him. He was also a figure that he secretly vowed to surpass in the future. But on second thought, Lin Yi knew that he was thinking too much. He thought of Ram Jie purely because he was a goal that he had to surpass. It was impossible for Ram Jie's fame to be so well known even in Dongzhou. Not to mention others, there should be many people in the North Island who were stronger than Ram Jie. For example, Lan Tiefu, the eldest senior brother who was in charge of the inner gate of Soaring Pavilion. Judging from his performance in the face of the new Azure Dragon, this person's strength should not be weaker than Ram Jie, let alone those super big shots standing at the top. Shangguan Tianhua. Yes, it's Shangguan Tianhua. Anai Kaiwe clapped her hands excitedly and looked at Lin Yi with shining eyes. Young hero, you're so powerful that even people like Changlading are no match for you. You're invincible at the same level, and you're also a super alchemist. You must be a disciple of Shangguan Tianhua, right? Lin Yi smiled secretly. Sure enough, it was Shanghai Tianhua. Ren Zhongyuan and others were impressed by him during the trial in the West Island because of his name. It could be seen that this super big shot was not simple. Otherwise, if it was just the name of the head of Soaring Pavilion, it would at most shock the North Island. It was impossible for him to be so famous in Dongzhou. Congratulations, you're right. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't want to deny it. After all, it would be troublesome to explain. He might as well not explain. It wasn't wrong to say it. Sure enough, I heard from Master that Shanghai Tianhua is a big shot who left a legend in Dongzhou. His strength is so strong that it makes people's hair stand on end. Young hero, you're his disciple. You're so powerful. And Tsayue's eyes were full of little stars of worship. He used to be a legend in Dongzhou. Lin Yi couldn't help laughing. This was not a surprising thing. Except for the spirit beasts, almost all the big shots on the other Heaven Stage islands had studied in Dongzhou. It was normal for them to leave a legend. But Lin Yi was still a little surprised. Speaking of which, Lin Yi had met Shanghai Tianhua many times. Because of Shanghai Laner, they were familiar with each other, and it was widely rumored that he was Shanghai Tianhua's personal disciple. But Lin Yi knew very little about this super big shot in the North Island, and he knew nothing about his past. This was the first time he learned about it from Enai Kaiwe. No. Enai Kaiwe suddenly shook her head. Shanghai Tianhua doesn't seem to be an elixir refiner. You're so good at it, he didn't teach you, did he? Oh, then who do you think taught me? Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at Xinyan and the others. She'd already admitted that she was right, but she herself was wrong. Talking to this Enai girl was too much of a hassle. Enai Kaiwe tilted her head and thought for a while. She smacked her head and said, I remember now. I heard that there's a very powerful elixir god Zhang Liju from the North Island. Are you his disciple? Congratulations on getting 2 answers. Your smart IQ has taken the high ground again. Lin, he was like a hoodwinker. And I'm actually quite smart. Enai Kaiwe raised her head proudly. After a while, she blinked and asked, What is IQ? What high ground? It's nothing. It doesn't have much to do with you. Lin Yi's words made Xinyan giggle. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lin Yi. She was the only one who understood what he meant. Oh, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with me. Enai Kaiwe followed his advice. This time it wasn't just Xinyan. Even Lin Yi himself was amused. Seeing the confused look on Xinyan's face, he quickly put on a serious face. Shangguan Tianhua, Zhang Liju, whose disciple am I? I know. You're their disciple. Enai Kaiwe couldn't wait to answer. Congratulations. You know how to answer first. Lin Yi gave her a thumbs up with a face full of respect. Facing this kind of dumb girl, his hidden great trickster attribute was brought out completely. Everything else aside, the sounds of laughter and chatting along the way were quite entertaining. The 5 of them returned to the teleportation point. Since they took the main road, they didn't encounter any accidents. They didn't even see a spirit beast. As for the students, they all stayed far away from them. After all, no one was deliberately hiding their strength. The 5 of them were all early-stage mysterious ascendant experts. This kind of powerful lineup was almost invincible in the path of giants. No one dared to provoke them, or else they might be killed and robbed. This kind of thing was too common. 2 days later, Lin Yi's group finally returned to the teleportation point. The other students all made way for them. Very soon, they were teleported out. Coming out of the teleportation formation was the dock. At this time, there were less than half of the battleships and ships that were docked here. However, the academies that didn't have all of their disciples would naturally stay here and wait. After a month, they would have to leave regardless of whether all of their disciples had arrived or not. This was the rule of the Golden Step Academy's alliance. Young warrior, I understand now. You're actually a very good person. Enai Kaiwe suddenly turned to Lin Yi. After leaving the teleportation point, they would naturally return to their own ships and forget about each other. Is that so? It's not easy to hear something nice from you. Lin Yi said with a chuckle. It was rare that he didn't use a preamble to hide his feelings. Congratulations. Yes, I'll remember you. Enai Kaiwe nodded. Chapter 49:20. I will always remember you. Enai Kaiwe repeated. However, before Lin Yi could be moved, this silly girl suddenly blinked and said, What's your name again? I'm going to faint. You don't even know my name. How are you going to remember it? Lin Yi almost fell. Under the laughter of Wang Xinyan and the others, he could only helplessly smile and say, "My name is Lin Yi." Linny? Why does it sound so ordinary? I thought it was a very powerful name. And Kaiwa pouted. There's such a thing as powerful or not. Lin, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was the first time he heard such a novel and unique way of saying it. Of course, but Lin E is Lin E. I'll remember it. And Kaiwa smiled slightly and said, "Then let's meet at the Xuanjie Sea area. At that time we can be friends." Don't. In my eyes, women can only be girlfriends, so forget it, Lin E joked. Ah, you're teasing me again. And Kaiwa suddenly blushed again. However, she was wearing a veil, so others couldn't see it. You're too sensitive. This is called teasing? All right, hurry up and go. The people in your academy are calling you. Lin E smiled and reminded her. At this time, someone on a treasure ship in the distance was waving at him. Looking at the flag, it was Donghua Academy where Kaiwa was from. Oh, then I'm leaving. But don't tease me again next time. Kaiwa hurriedly waved her hand at the people on the treasured vessel, and she was about to turn around and leave in high spirits. However, she just turned around when she saw a face that was gloomy like water, and she was instantly shocked and cried out involuntarily. Chang Lading. Humph, you didn't expect it, right? I've been waiting for you here for a long time. Chang Lading sneered. At this moment, Lao Shao was still behind him, but there was no Lao Li. After being struck by Lin Yi's lightning, which was comparable to the thunder retribution, although he showed mercy and did not kill him on the spot, it was impossible for him to get out of bed without lying down for a few months. On the contrary, the sudden appearance of Chang Lading here made Lin Yi somewhat surprised. This guy's injury was not as serious as Lao Li. After all, Lin Yi only used him to test his moves at that time, and he only tested the 4-attribute martial technique. But how many days had it been? This guy was actually as lively as a dragon and as lively as a tiger. Apart from some scars on his body, his movements were completely normal. It seemed that he must have taken some top-grade tonic like the Great Revitalizing Pill. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to recover so quickly just by relying on conventional healing methods. Don't come over. And Kaiwa was frightened and panicked. She subconsciously hid behind Lin Yi. Chang Lading's gloomy face suddenly turned darker. Some of the Academy's disciples around who knew the inside story whispered. And Kaiwa was not only the third fairy of Gaolin Sea area, but also the Taoist companion of Chang Lading. But now, in order to hide from Chang Lading, she fled behind another man. This scene was really weird. There was no shortage of people gossiping everywhere. In just a moment, a heart-wrenching love triangle story intertwined with love and hate had been fresh out of the oven and instantly spread throughout the audience. Listening to these off-key whispers, Chang Lading was about to explode. He pointed at Lin Yi and said angrily, "Little bastard, I finally found you. Great. Not only did you sneak attack me inside, you even dared to seduce my Taoist companion in front of everyone. Do you know who I am?" Actually, Chang Lading's style was not to use his power to suppress others. Under normal circumstances, he would first cripple the opponent and then show off his powerful background. Only then would he be able to fully display his power as one of the 4 young masters of nascent Soul Realm. But this time he could not do it. The previous fight had shown the difference in strength between the two sides. Chang Lading was not a fool. No matter how arrogant he was, he knew that he was no match for Lin Yi. Therefore, he could only change his way of thinking and directly use his powerful background to suppress others. Aren't you Chang Lading? Didn't we just meet a few days ago? I'm not that forgetful. What else do you want? Lin Yi glanced at him indifferently. It's good that you know. I'm not afraid to tell you that I am the son of the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy, Zhang Zili. Chang Lading said arrogantly. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden uproar. The chief alchemist of any academy was a big shot, at least in the top 5 of the academy. However, under normal circumstances, no matter how high the position of the chief alchemist was, he could only be ranked second, just below the dean of the academy. However, this Tripod City Academy was extremely special. The position of the chief alchemist was higher than that of the dean. This was because this was an academy that focused on alchemy. At least half of the academy's students were alchemists. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Tripod City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists. To be able to become the chief alchemist of such an academy, one's status was far above that of other Yellow Steppe academies. In the East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea region, this academy was practically the banner of all alchemists. Whether it was status or influence, it was no small matter. However, Lin Yi didn't know about this. To be precise, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After all, even a 7th-grade alchemist like Qing Danzi was willing to be his disciple. Even if this Tripod City Academy was the cradle of alchemists, there was no way that a 7th-grade alchemist would be willing to be someone else's disciple. "Oh, your father's surname is Zhang, but your surname is Chong? You're the latter?" Lin Yi's focus was a little more unique, and he even revealed an expression of curiosity and gossip. Hearing this, Chong Lading almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He said angrily, "That's my mother." "Oh, I see. So the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy is a woman." "Sorry about that." Lin Yi smiled without sincerity. Then he cooperated and asked, "What about your father?" I'm going to say it now. You'd better be careful and stand firm, or you'll be scared to the ground by me." "That would be too embarrassing," Chong Lading said with a disdainful look. "Oh, I'm listening. Don't worry about me. I've always been open-minded. Come and scare me." Lin Yi smiled faintly, as if he was asking for a slap in the face. This little bastard really deserved a beating. Seeing this scene, Chong Lading was so angry that his teeth hurt. However, he didn't dare to attack directly. He could only continue to put on a disdainful look and said, "Listen up, my father is the mayor of Tripod City." Suddenly, there was another round of exclamations. However, Lin Yi had a look of realization on his face. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Oh, I understand. Your Tripod City Academy is a small place in the countryside. Other academies are cities, but yours is a town." Chapter 49-21. Although from the name, the standard of Cauldron Town seemed to be a little lower than the main cities of those academies. But don't forget that Cauldron City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists, and Cauldron Town was the holy land of alchemists in the Yellow Class Sea region. Almost all the alchemists in the Yellow Class Sea region had to go there for a pilgrimage, and its status was extraordinary. In fact, although it was called Cauldron Town, its overall size was bigger than the main cities of those academies. The so-called Cauldron Town was just its most core area, a holy land of alchemists that no one could enter. Not only was Cauldron Town not small, but because of its super strong influence as the holy land of alchemists, it could even compete with Thunder City, where the headquarters of the Yellow Class Academy Alliance was located. The position of its town lord, even among the city lords of all the Yellow Class Academy main cities, was also among the best. Such a holy land of alchemists with such a high status was actually said to be a small place in the countryside. How could those who really came from small places endure this? "Why, I'm so angry. Little bastard, you're courting death. Someone cripple him for me." Chong Lading stomped his feet and cursed. While speaking, he himself did not make a move. First, he knew that he could not beat Lin Yi, and second, there was no need for him to do it himself. There were many people who were willing to take care of Lin Yi for him. Of course, this certainly did not include Old Xiao. In front of Lin Yi, he could only piss his pants in terror. Even if he had the heart, he did not have the strength. Sure enough, as soon as Chong Lading's voice fell, 2 profound ascension late-stage experts with extraordinary aura suddenly flashed beside him. More and more onlookers quickly made way for them. Although many of them were already new profound ascension early-stage experts, Compared to these two senior profound ascension late-stage experts, there was still too much of a difference. Just this cold aura alone made people feel afraid, and they did not dare to cross the line. Bold madman, you dare to sneak attack young Master Chong in the trial, and now you are boasting shamelessly in public to slander my Cauldron City Academy. You're not going to surrender. One of them frowned and shouted, "Who are you people?" Lin Yi's expression did not change in the slightest as he sized up the two profound ascension late-stage experts who had suddenly appeared. Although their auras were strong and powerful, they should not be fake goods. However, he could clearly feel that the auras of these two people were a little rough. It seemed that they were not people who often fought, at least not very good at it. Lin Yi's guess wasn't wrong at all. These two were the libationers of Cauldron City, and they were high-level refiners as well. Naturally, they didn't spar with people like the other mystical late-phase masters, and it was inevitable that their auras were a bit rough. Humph! We are the libation of the Tripod City Academy. Which academy are you from? Hurry up and tell us your name, the two of them said in a condescending tone. With Chong Lading's powerful background, these two ordinary Grand Chancellors could only curry favor with him. Of course, they had to put on a good performance at this time. However, they couldn't just attack without saying anything. They had to put on a big hat for Lin Yi first. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread, they would have the reputation of bullying the weak. That would tarnish the reputation of Cauldron City Academy. Me? Didn't Chong Lading tell you? Lin Yi glanced at Chong Lading in surprise. Chong Lading's face immediately turned red. He had only asked these two to teach Lin Yi a lesson to vent his anger. As for the details of what happened on the path of a tyrant, he would not go into detail. After all, it would be too embarrassing. The two Grand Chancellors froze for a moment. When they saw Chong Lading's expression, they immediately knew that something was wrong. They quickly changed their words. No matter which academy you are from, you dare to slander our Cauldron City Academy in public. Just based on this alone, we cannot let you off easily. We can keep your life, but we must cripple your cultivation today as a warning to others. You are too much. Hearing this, Wang Xinyan could no longer hold it in. She immediately stepped forward. The aura of an early-stage profound ascension expert was unmistakable. Not only her, but Huang Xiaotao and Lu Xiaozhong also revealed their strength. In this way, including Lin Yi himself, there were a total of 4 early-stage mystical ascension masters. Although it was not worth mentioning in front of the 2 late-stage mystical ascension masters, the atmosphere still became very tense. Do you want to have your cultivation crippled as well? If you ruin your future in a moment of impulse, you can only live in the darkness and helplessness for the rest of your lives. Hurry up and back off. The 2 Grand Chancellors frowned when they saw the situation. They did not think that these people were very strong when they teamed up. In fact, if they really fought for early-stage profound ascension experts wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move from them. However, if things really developed to that point, there would be repercussions. Because of Lin Yi's rudeness, the 2 of them had crippled his cultivation in front of everyone. This was not something that could be criticized, but if they were to cripple 4 new early-stage profound ascension experts, and they seemed to be from the same academy, then there would be a huge enmity. Once things got out of hand, the Cauldron City Academy would definitely have to give an explanation, and this black pot could only be placed on the 2 of them. After all, they couldn't push the blame onto Chong Lading, could they? TSK, I didn't think that the Cauldron City Academy would be so tyrannical. I thought that only the Leidong Academy was like this. Today is really an eye-opener. Lu Xiaozhong was a person who wished for the whole world to be in chaos. Not only was he not afraid at this time, he even went to provoke the other side. At most, it would be a chaotic battle. He had seen this kind of scene many times. Kid, you better be careful with your words. We only didn't want to make a move because you are all students of the same academy. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The Grand Chancellor of the Cauldron City Academy said coldly, I'm so scared. Lu Xiaozhong shouted with an exaggerated face. That expression really deserved a beating, no matter how you looked at it. It was like his father, Lu Dachong, had inherited it. Die. The two Grand Chancellors were so angry that their mouths were crooked. If it weren't for the last bit of rationality, they would have slapped Lu Xiaozhong to death. This kid was too hateful. Your academy is really powerful, wanting to cripple someone's cultivation without any reason. Do you really think that our Morning Star Academy is easy to bully? Wang Xinyan quickly stood up and said, not daring to let Lu Xiaozhong talk nonsense anymore. After all, they were facing two late-stage Profound Ascension Masters. If they were to fight, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. The best solution today was to bring up the name of the Morning Star Academy so that the other side wouldn't dare to act rashly. After all, in terms of strength, the Morning Star Academy was considered a top-tier existence among the Golden Stage Academies. Chapter 49-22. What's there to be afraid of? That little bastard is from the North Island. He's not from the Morning Star Academy. Chang Lading snorted in dissatisfaction. From the North Island? The two Tripod City Academy chancellors froze for a moment, then felt relieved. A mere disciple from the North Island wouldn't be a problem even if he was killed on the spot, let alone crippling his cultivation. Would Shanghai Tianhua come all the way to the East Continent just for a disciple from the North Island? You guys listen up. Today we will only punish this insolent kid. If anyone else interferes, don't blame us for being merciless. The two chancellors' expressions turned serious, and they were about to attack Lin Yi. Wang Xinyan and the others' heart sank, and they quickly tried to block in front of Lin Yi, but Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. You guys go back and watch the show. I'm just about to get some exercise. Huh. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other, stunned. Seeing that Lin Yi wasn't nervous at all, they looked at each other and retreated. Although they had faith in Lin Yi's strength, a profound ascending early stage against two profound ascending late stage. Wasn't the difference a little too big? As for Lu Xiaozhong, he retreated quickly. He wasn't stupid. And although he wasn't afraid of trouble, it didn't mean that he wasn't afraid of death. Since Lin Yi said that he only needed to watch the show, he naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to be cannon fodder. He, a mere disciple from the North Island, sure has a big mouth. The two chancellors laughed when they heard this. They thought that Lin Yi was a frog at the bottom of a well who had never seen the world. He was the king of a small place like the North Island, and he thought that he would be invincible in the East Continent. He was really stupid to a certain extent. Daydreams would always be broken one day, and today was the perfect time to wake him up. Seeing that Chang Lading had already revealed an impatient expression, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy didn't dare to be negligent. They immediately leaped up and were about to attack Lin Yi. However, before the two of them could take their stances, Lin Yi suddenly raised his hand and shouted coldly, "Thousand thunder explosions!" As late-stage profound ascension experts, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy displayed extreme contempt towards Lin Yi's moves. However, before the contempt could even be seen on their faces, the two of them suddenly twitched and fell to the ground, a thick, dark blue lightning pillar on top of their heads. Hiss! The sound of people gasping in unison rose and fell, and it was continuous and unending. They didn't have time to do anything, and the two late-stage mystical ascension masters were lying on the ground with black smoke coming out of them. Everyone looked at Lin Yi as if they were looking at a monster. Was this guy really a mystical ascension master? Could this guy be a spirit beast? Someone couldn't help but whisper. It's possible. No, it should be very possible. Even if a human cultivator has a lightning attribute spiritual root, it's still impossible for him to release such a powerful lightning strike. It's almost at the level of a lightning tribulation. Oh no, this is even stronger than a lightning tribulation. Someone immediately echoed. Yes, yes, a human cultivator can actually release a lightning tribulation. I've never heard of it before. Those powerful lightning attribute spirit beasts are more like it. I heard that not only are there lightning eagles, but there's also the legendary thunder dragon. Could this guy be a thunder dragon? Someone immediately had a brainwave. Yes, yes, yes. And you still say that he's from the North Island. When did the people of the North Island become so powerful? It's impossible. It must be the thunder attribute spirit beast inside that couldn't bear the loneliness and came out to fish in troubled waters. That must be it. Someone else said confidently, that makes sense. The teleportation circle here only has a one-way restriction. Although only original soul stage masters can enter, there's no restriction on strength. It's completely possible. Everyone quickly came to a conclusion, listening to the whispers of the people around them. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although they were also shocked by Lin Yi's sudden burst of power, they still thought that he was a thunder attribute spirit beast. What were they thinking? Oh, so he's the legendary thunder dragon. No wonder he's so powerful. Anait Sayue's eyes lit up. She agreed with this statement. Wang Xinyan and the others were completely shocked by her. She had just helped him concoct the profound raising pill. How could he be the legendary thunder dragon? Could it be that a thunder dragon could become an alchemist? This girl's brain was really different from normal people. However, Lin Yi didn't pay any attention to the discussions around him. He was completely immersed in the joy of the 1,000 lightning explosions. The one who was most shocked by the 1,000 lightning explosions wasn't the spectators, but himself. The 1,000 thunderbolts explosion was a new technique that he had come up with on the way here. The origin of this technique came from the thunder dragon. Everyone was right about this. Before this, Lin Yi's thunder and lightning energy was many times stronger than before. However, he hadn't truly grasped the essence of it. The way he attacked was simple and plain. To put it bluntly, he just let the thunder and lightning energy in his body pour out in torrents. There was no technique to speak of. This was like a wealthy man who obviously had too much money at home, but he would only use it like an ordinary person to feed and clothe himself. Apart from that, he didn't know how to spend so much money. It was simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. When he first received the thunder inheritance, Lin Yi only knew how to use arcs of electricity. Now that his thunder and lightning energy had grown many times stronger, the so-called lightning strike he mastered was actually a magnified version of arcs of electricity. There was no difference between the two. With Lin Yi's comprehension, he quickly realized that there was a problem. However, it wasn't easy for Lin Yi to figure out what the problem was. He needed advice from an expert. Unfortunately, the giant eel that gave him the thunder inheritance had long since perished. That ghost didn't specialize in thunder and lightning, so it was difficult for it to give him any advice. That was until he went to Thunder Burial City. The vengeful spirits Yuan Shin controlled the thunder dragon's corpse to use a few bolts of purple lightning. While it made Lin Yi suffer a lot, it also benefited him a lot. Not only did the thunder and lightning energy in his body become stronger, but it also gave him the opportunity to take a peek at some tricks. To be able to reach such a level of purple lightning, it was definitely not a simple superposition of the power of thunder and lightning. If that was the case, at most it would be dark blue. With the thunder and lightning energy in Lin Yi's body, it was more than enough to deal with Chang Lading and the others. However, once he faced a real master, he wouldn't even need to face a master of the mountain opening stage. Just a master of the profound ascending stage would be difficult to deal with. Chapter 49-23. When lightning strikes could not kill people, the threat would naturally be greatly reduced, and it was very likely to return to the previous embarrassing situation, where it could only be used to restrain and harass, but could not become a truly powerful killing move. Fortunately, Lin Yi had learned a trick from the long-dead Lei Long. He discovered that the opponent's purple lightning was far from a simple superposition of the power of lightning, but there were clear signs of some lightning particles colliding. The difference was very subtle, and even with Lin Yi's observation skills, it was hard for him to notice it right away. But this wasn't the first time he'd been struck by lightning. He'd been struck by lightning so many times, and he'd had a taste of the purple lightning. Without a doubt, other than the difference in the strength of the lightning, the most fundamental difference was the collision of the lightning particles. However, understanding was just understanding. Wanting to grasp such an exquisite and profound skill in an instant was not realistic. After all, Lin Yi himself was just a beginner who had barely learned lightning strikes, and it was impossible for him to directly reach the level of Lei Long in one step. However, he could follow this train of thought and use his own method to transform the lightning strike bit by bit to become more powerful. The 1,000 Thunderbolt explosion was the first step that Lin Yi had taken, integrating the violent San 1,000 explosive fist technique into the lightning strike, and thus came the shocking 1,000 Thunderbolt explosion just now. Of course, it could also be called the violent lightning 1,000 explosive fist, but Lin Yi clearly liked the 1,000 Thunderbolt explosion more. It was awe-inspiring and imposing. All kinds of discussions could be heard from the surroundings. Most of them actually did not see what happened clearly. They only saw a thick, dark blue lightning flash in front of their eyes, and then two profound ascension late-stage experts lay down straight, with black smoke rising from their bodies. But this did not hinder their imagination. For a time, all kinds of strange theories were clamoring. In contrast, the theory that Lin Yi was the incarnation of Lei Long was already considered reliable, and even more outrageous was that Lin Yi was the incarnation of the power of lightning, and even said that Lin Yi was the illegitimate child of the god of thunder and the goddess of lightning. Lin Yi was speechless. He couldn't help but want to point at these people's noses and scold them for being so superstitious. The spectators at the side were only discussing amongst themselves. Chang Lading, who was only a few steps away from the two chancellors, was so scared that he peed his pants. His heart was filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, he had learned his lesson last time and had the self-awareness to let these two unlucky chancellors act on his behalf. Otherwise, he would have been hacked into pieces on the spot. Young Master Chang, what do you think we should do next? Lin Yi cracked his knuckles maliciously. The dark blue electric arcs jumping on his fingertips were ready to move, just like the god of thunder. Feeling the cold killing intent in Lin Yi's eyes, Chang Lading was scared stiff. Every time the electric arc on Lin Yi's fingertips jumped, he couldn't help but tremble. He was afraid that 1,000 thunderbolts explosion would suddenly appear on his head and smoke together with the two unlucky chancellors on the ground. You, how dare you attack me? Chang Lading was already very courageous for not running away on the spot. With his pride, he would never lose face in front of so many people. Moreover, in this place, even if he couldn't beat Lin Yi, there were plenty of people who could beat this northern island bumpkin to death. Didn't you see it? Is your eyesight bad? Lin Yi smiled faintly. Chang Lading was choked to the point of vomiting blood. He pointed at Lin Yi and gnashed his teeth. Just you wait. Believe it or not, I'll make you die without a burial place. I can't do anything to you inside, but since you're out, I can kill you with just a finger. Then hurry up and move. You're so noisy. You're not a man at all. Let me help you. Lin Yi felt that he was wasting time. As he spoke, the electric arc jumping on his fingertips suddenly grew into a dark blue lightning pillar. Although it was just a simplified version of 1,000 thunderbolts explosion, it was still breathtaking. Before his voice died away, the lightning pillar directly fell on the head of Chang Lading. Young Master Chang, who was fierce in appearance but weak in heart, immediately fell straight down with black smoke. His posture was the same as that of the two unlucky chancellors, or even worse. There was a faint smell of burnt flesh on his body. All the people present were suddenly stunned. One by one, they hurriedly retreated more than 10 feet. They looked at Lin Yi with a horrified expression, as if they were watching the fire cloud evil god. When did such a ruthless person appear in the northern island? Without saying a word, he killed 2 unlucky chancellors in the late profound ascension stage. Now, because he felt that the other party was too long-winded, he moved his finger and struck Chang lading down. Was this guy going to repeat the ruthless deeds of Shanghai Tianhua? Back then, Shanghai Tianhua had forced the Academy Alliance into a corner all by himself. Although this guy with lightning all over his body was slightly weaker, it was obvious that he was also heading in that direction. After all, this was the territory of the Golden Stage Academy Alliance. "Let's go," Lin Yi said to Wang Xinyan and the others behind him. He took the lead and walked in the direction of the dock. The surrounding people hurriedly made way for him, afraid that they would accidentally provoke this ruthless person from the northern island. This place was not suitable for them to stay for long. Since Chang Lading and the others had come to the door, Lin Yi, of course, had to fight back. However, he also expected that doing so would definitely cause trouble. It was best to return to the Morning Star Academy's treasure ship first. That way, he would have another layer of protection, and others would more or less have to worry about him. However, before Lin Yi and the others could take a few steps, a group of people suddenly appeared in front of them, blocking their way. Lin Yi's eyelids suddenly twitched. These people all had a special symbol on them, which was completely different from the symbols of ordinary academies. The key point was that every one of them had a monstrous aura. They were all Magnate Realm Masters in the early mountain opening stage. After coming to the Heavenly Stage Island for 2 years, Lin Yi could be considered to have seen a lot of the world. He had once been chased by the West Mountain Old Sect, but he had never been surrounded like this before. In front of him was a whole group of Magnate Realm Masters of the mountain opening stage. This group of Magnate Realm Masters, obviously, did not come with good intentions. Seeing this, Wang Xinyan and the others couldn't help but turn pale. With their strength, they might be able to deal with the mysterious late-stage masters, but now that they were facing Magnate Realm Masters, what could they do? At this time, the surrounding spectators were even more in an uproar. Although many of them were mysterious early-stage masters, in front of so many Magnate Realm Masters, they couldn't even stand firm. They could only quickly retreat a few hundred feet to barely withstand the pressure of this monstrous aura. Who dares to cause trouble here? Arrest them. The leader's strength was much stronger than the others. He was actually a mountain opening stage master. Chapter 49-24. As expected of the East Continent, where super experts gathered. Even if it was just a Golden Stage Academy Alliance, it still had such a shocking strength. It was really not a small matter. The middle stage mountain opening expert seemed to be the guard captain. With a command, the 2 middle stage mountain opening experts walked towards Lin Yi, one on the left and one on the right. At this moment, Lin Yi's mind was racing. To be honest, the path of the magnate had not only allowed him to successfully advance to the profound ascension realm, but he had also mastered such a powerful lightning power. Now was the time for him to be bursting with confidence. However, no matter how confident he was, suddenly facing 2 middle stage magnate experts was still a huge pressure. After all, these 2 people were not the 2 unlucky chancellors from before. The 1,000 thunderbolts explosion could deal with the middle stage magnate experts, but to say that they could even deal with the middle stage magnate experts at the middle stage was too whimsical. Not to mention the others. Even Lin Yi himself did not believe it. However, this situation was obviously disadvantageous to him. Lin Yi could not just give up, right? He could not resist, and he could not resist either. Lin Yi was suddenly in a dilemma, and he could not help but feel a little regretful. He did not regret taking care of Chang Lading and the 2 unlucky chancellors, but he regretted not escaping back to the treasure ship after taking care of the 3 of them. If he was on the treasure ship of the Morning Star Academy, then even the guards of the Academy Alliance would not be able to capture him in public, right? At most, it would just be wrangling. He had miscalculated. Lin Yi sighed to himself. Just as he was about to make a decision, someone suddenly stood up from behind him. It was Lu Xiaozhong. Why should we capture Master Lin? They were the ones who caused trouble first. Master Lin was only defending himself. Everyone can see this. Lu Xiaozhong shouted at the top of his lungs. Although facing so many giants of the mountain opening stage at such a close distance, he was not a person who was afraid of trouble. Moreover, his father was a giant of the mountain opening stage, and his strength was even stronger than these people, so he did not feel that there was anything to be afraid of. He couldn't help but feel a little moved when he saw this. In fact, he didn't have much friendship with Lu Xiaozhong. At most, Lu Xiaozhong took care of him a little on the road to becoming a giant, but he didn't give him too many benefits. At this time, it was really commendable that Lu Xiaozhong could stand up for him without fear of power. Yeah, Lin Yi isn't guilty. What right do you have to arrest him? Xinyan and Xiao Tao jumped in front of Lin Yi as well. What? Do you want to be arrested as well? The leader of the guards narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at the three of them. His dignified face was suddenly filled with displeasure, ruthlessness, and even killing intent. As the only military establishment of the Academy Alliance, the authority of the Alliance Guards was not to be underestimated. Killing was only one of the most basic duties. As long as they could come up with a reason, they could easily kill any disciple of any academy. Therefore, if they dared to disobey, even if they killed Lin Yi and the others on the spot, they would have died in vain. The Morning Star Academy would not even have the right to pursue the matter. Under such circumstances, ordinary people would have long fled to some corner after feeling the killing intent of the guards. However, Lu Xiaozhong was surprisingly unyielding. He straightened his neck and said, "I didn't do anything, I was only asking. Is that not enough? Do we, the disciples of the Morning Star Academy, not even have this little bit of authority?" As a mid-mountain opening stage expert, the leader of the guards could not be bothered to talk nonsense with such a small fry. He immediately ordered coldly, "Arrest them all!" At this time, he was already being very polite by not saying to kill them all on the spot. Of course, he was not a fool. If he really killed them without saying anything, even if the Morning Star Academy could not pursue the matter openly, they would definitely hate him to the core. The three heads of the Morning Star Academy were not people to be trifled with. Seeing that the two early mountain opening stage experts were about to make a move, Lin Yi frowned. He never had the habit of waiting to be captured. Back then, he had dared to challenge the West Mountain Elder when he was only at the Gold Core stage, let alone now. To be honest, with Lin Yi's current strength at the early profound ascension stage, facing these mountain opening stage experts was no longer out of reach. If he really wanted to go all out, he might be able to put up a fight. Just as Lin Yi was about to go all out, a stern and somewhat familiar voice suddenly came from afar. "What are you doing? You're blocking the way. Hurry up and get out of the way." When everyone heard the voice, they could not help but exclaim softly. No wonder the voice was familiar. It was the young-looking president of the Alliance. After seeing the president of the Alliance, the mid-mountain opening stage guard captain immediately lowered his head. After bowing with a respectful expression, he respectfully reported, "President, there's a fight here. I'm dealing with it now." "Then why aren't you moving? What's wrong with blocking the way here?" The president glared at him, then turned to the woman beside him with some deliberate humility. He smiled apologetically and said, "Master Zong, I'm sorry to have made a fool of myself in front of you." "Humph, it's nothing." The woman snorted coldly. Although she maintained her youthful appearance, it was easy to tell from her temperament that she was definitely an old woman who had lived for God knows how long. Furthermore, she did not hide the arrogance and harshness on her face. It was as if everyone had to lower their heads in front of her, including the president of the Alliance beside her. "Please, please." The corner of the president's mouth twitched slightly. After signaling the guards to make way, he hurriedly invited the woman to go first. In fact, he was also a very arrogant person, and in terms of strength, he was far above the other party. If it was not for the fact that he needed help from this Master Zong, he would not have been so humble. Perhaps he would have fallen out with her on the spot. The woman glanced arrogantly at the group of mountain opening stage giants, then walked through them with a high attitude. In her eyes, this group of mountain opening stage giants was probably a group of bodyguards. That kind of disdain and contempt was written clearly on her face. However, before she could maintain her noble demeanor to the end, when she caught a glimpse of the situation in front of her, she was instantly stunned. In the next moment, the woman rushed to the front of Chong, lading like a gust of wind. She hugged the guy who smelled burnt and exclaimed, "Ting-er, what's wrong with you? Ting-er, wake up. Who did this?" When everyone saw this, they immediately understood the identity of this woman. Without a doubt, this woman was Chong Lading's mother, the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy, Zong Zili. Chapter 49-25. Everyone's eyes landed on Lin Yi, and Zong Zili reacted quickly. She glared at Lin Yi with murderous intent. "Was it you? Kid, do you want to die?" As soon as Zong Zili finished speaking, she was about to kill him. At this time, the president suddenly stood in front of her and said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, "Grandmaster Zong, please calm down. I will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation for this matter. However, if you make a move here, I'm afraid it's against the rules. This is the exclusive land of the Golden Division School Alliance. Only the Alliance can deal with this. No school or person is allowed to interfere, or the Alliance. Where does the authority of the Alliance will be?" Lin Yi nodded to himself as he listened. He didn't know this guild leader well, and didn't even know his name. He'd only heard him speak once before, but from what he'd said, he wasn't an unreasonable person. Compared to Zong Zili and the guard captain, he was at least a reasonable person. Humph. Against the rules? Zong Zili glared at the guild master unhappily before turning back to Lin Yi with a murderous look. "Breaking the rules, huh? What if I have to kill him today?" The union president's expression changed slightly. If Zong Zili dared to speak to him like this under normal circumstances, he would have already turned hostile on the spot. But this time the matter was too important. He could only swallow his anger and say, "Grandmaster Zong, I'll say it again. This is the exclusive territory of the Academic Union. Please do not make things difficult for me." Zong Zili gave him a long look and smiled coldly. "Very well, then. The authority of the Alliance, is not to be offended. If that's the case, I'll be taking my ting-er to heal. Find someone else." With that, Zong Zili picked up the smoking Chong lading and got up to leave. "Wait." The headmaster's face changed again and again. After a moment of consideration, he gritted his teeth. "Since it's your son who's injured, then this is Master Zhang's family business. I don't care anymore." Xinyan and the others' hearts sank at the words, and they couldn't help but turn to Lin Yi worriedly. Even the head of the Alliance had chosen to back down in front of a woman like Zong Zili. Didn't that mean they were doomed? Very well. The headmaster is a sensible person. Zong Zili glanced at the Alliance leader with a smug expression before carefully putting down Chong lading. He turned to Lin Yi with a savage expression. "Kid, how dare you attack my ting-er? You can die now." As he spoke, Zong Zili's entire body released a fierce and sharp aura. His strength was without a doubt. He was actually an early mountain opening stage magnate. Xinyan and the others jumped in fright. They'd just gotten out of the wolf's den and into the tiger's lair. It was a dangerous situation when they were blocked by the Alliance's guards, but these people were only here to capture Lin Yi. This Zong Zili, on the other hand, was trying to kill Lin Yi, and he was an early phase practitioner. If they'd fallen into the hands of the Alliance, At least Morning Star Academy would have intervened. At least their lives wouldn't be in danger, but this Zhang Zili was obviously going to kill him to vent her anger. Lin, he would be dead if he fell into her hands. But in contrast to the shocked Xinyan and the others, Lin, he wasn't scared at all. In fact, he was even feeling a little excited as he looked at Zhang Zili calmly. Zhang Zili was an elixir refiner. Even when she fought, she had the aura of an elixir refiner. This meant that her combat ability was much weaker than a practitioner of the same level. Even if she was an early-stage magnate, she was still the weakest of them all. After all, there was only one non-mainstream elixir refiner like Lin Yi who treated elixir refinement as a sideline. Most elixir refiners were synonymous with weak strength. Zhang Liju, the legendary elixir god, was an exception. Unfortunately, this was Zhang Zili, not Zhang Liju. Before this, Lin Yi could only run away when facing a magnate of the Alliance, but now that he'd advanced to the early stage of the Alliance, he no longer had the fear of facing a magnate of the Alliance. Especially when facing Zhang Zili, who was the weakest of the Alliance, Lin Yi's heart was stirred. The Thousand Thunder explosion he just used to kill 2 mystical late-stage masters was something that even Zhang Zili couldn't do. This opening period trash that popped up out of nowhere was a free sparring partner for Lin Yi, who'd had a huge increase in strength recently. Seeing that Lin Yi was still so calm and collected, everyone started discussing again. Even the Union's master revealed a surprised expression. He'd never looked Lin Yi in the eye before, but a mere early-stage magnate of the Alliance, facing Zhang Zili and still being so calm. This kid didn't look simple at all. Zhang Zili's smile became even colder. She didn't care what kind of background and confidence Lin Yi had. She only knew that Lin Yi had beaten her precious son half to death. Just based on this, Lin Yi had to die. But before Zhang Zili could make a move, Lin Yi suddenly called out, "Wait! Humph, kid, it's too late for you to beg for mercy now. Since you hurt my Ting, you have to pay the corresponding price, and that price is death," Zhang Zili said coldly. For this kind of unreasonable woman, Lin Yi didn't even have the interest to look at her, let alone waste his saliva talking nonsense with her. Instead, he turned to the Union's master and said indifferently, "From what you're saying, the Union's master doesn't plan to intervene, right?" "That's right, although this is the territory of the Alliance of Academies. This is a private matter between you two." As the Union's master, there's no need for me to intervene. The Union's master paused for a moment, his eyes filled with regret and self-mockery. Besides, Master Zhang isn't a member of our alliance, but a distinguished guest that we specially invited to help refine pills. Since it's her family's matter, I won't interfere. Hearing this, the expressions of everyone present couldn't help but become a little strange. The Golden Alliance was an official power in the Golden Sea region, especially since this was the Thunderous Plain Island, a place exclusive to the Alliance. If it were anyone else, they would have been trampled by the guards until not even dregs remained. Zhang Zili was, after all, the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was the #1 alchemist in the Yellow Steppe Sea region. Her status was extraordinary, and even the Yellow Steppe Academy Alliance had to treat her with respect. She might need someone's help in the future, just like now. Chapter 49-26. Hee, I think you've misunderstood. Lin Yi smiled indifferently and continued to look at the Alliance leader. What I mean is, even if I kill her here today, I don't have to take responsibility, right? The Alliance leader was stunned and couldn't react for a moment. Everyone looked at each other. Although Lin Yi's words were easy to understand, facing a mountain opening stage giant like Zhang Zili, no matter how powerful he was, wasn't it a bit too much to say such words in public? Could it be that this person's brain was broken? Without waiting for the Alliance leader to speak, Zhang Zili laughed wildly as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He looked at Lin Yi mockingly and said, "Ha ha ha ha! No wonder you dared to attack my Ting. Your tone is shockingly arrogant. I can clearly tell you that if you are able to kill me today, nothing will happen to you. However, if you are unable to kill me, I will let you have a good taste of a fate worse than death." "Very good. I'm relieved to hear that," Lin Yi said as he stretched out his right arm. Electric arcs danced wildly on it, and his aura was released in an instant. "So you're a lightning element cultivator. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant." Seeing this, Zhang Zili's expression changed slightly. The thunder attribute was an extremely rare, mutated spirit root attribute. Because of the special nature of the power of thunder and lightning, thunder attribute cultivators were synonymous with powerful and domineering almost at all times. Ordinary cultivators could not compete with them at all. If Lin Yi was not at the early stage of mysterious ascension, but at the profound ascension great perfection, Zhang Zili might have to take the initiative to retreat, because she, who was the weakest mountain opening stage, had no chance of winning against a lightning element profound ascension great perfection expert. But now he was just a profound ascension great perfection expert. The difference in strength was enough to crush everything. Then let me experience the strength of a mountain opening stage giant today. As Lin Yi spoke, the electric arcs on his fingertips suddenly grew into a terrifying dark blue lightning pillar. It was the newly developed 1,000 thunder explosion. In the blink of an eye, the 1,000 thunder explosion smashed toward Zhang Zili at a speed beyond the limits of the naked eye. The distance between them was only a few feet. Basically, the moment the 1,000 thunder explosion appeared, it had already hit Zhang Zili's face. However, Zhang Zili reacted in time. At the end of the day, she was still at the initial phase of the mountain. Even if she wasn't good at fighting, she was still a giant level master. Zhang Zili's reaction speed wasn't something that the crowd around her, who were at most at the initial phase of the profound ascension realm, could compare to. Plus, she wasn't an idiot. After discovering that he was a lightning element practitioner, she was already on her guard. As everyone knew, the most troublesome thing about thunder element cultivators was not their super destructive power, but the extreme speed of their thunder and lightning. Basically, as soon as they attacked, the thunder and lightning would directly hit their opponent. Even the most basic evasion was an extravagant hope. In this case, when facing lightning element cultivators, it was necessary to make accurate predictions in advance, because no one could rely purely on temporary reactions to avoid lightning. Otherwise, no matter how strong they would only become a lightning target. Although Zhang Zili was not good at fighting, she was still a mountain opening stage giant after all. She still knew this most basic concept, so long before Lin Yi raised his hand, she had already reacted. In the face of the fierce 1,000 thunder explosion, Zhang Zili did not have the slightest intention of retreating. She was a mountain opening stage giant. How could she take the initiative to retreat in front of a mere profound ascending stage? Wouldn't that be a joke? Zhang Zili put her hands together, and before the 1,000 thunder explosion got close, she suddenly pushed out a super fireball. The color was not the common dark red or dark red, but extremely dazzling white. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. The 1,000 thunder explosion and the white fireball were actually evenly matched. The aftermath of the collision forcefully sent the surrounding nascent soul stage experts flying. Only the early profound ascension stage experts were still able to stabilize their bodies, but it was very difficult. White flames. Lin Yi couldn't help but frown when he saw this. This meant that the temperature of Zhang Zili's flame was far higher than his own alchemy fire, as expected of an early mountain opening stage alchemist. Even if he wasn't good at other things, when it came to playing with fire, an ordinary giant realm expert of the same level couldn't compare to Zhang Zili. As the temperature of the pale fire increased, its color would also constantly change, from the initial red to orange and then to gold. As for Zhang Zili's white fireball, its temperature was far above that of the gold, and its power was not to be underestimated. Looks like I've underestimated this woman. No matter what, she's still a mountain opening realm expert. If I'm not careful, I might die. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Fortunately, his opponent wasn't good at fighting. If this white flame wasn't a normal fireball, but a strong fire element skill, his 1,000 thunder explosion wouldn't have been able to withstand it, and he would have been in big trouble. Lin Yi was secretly shocked. At this time, Zhang Zili was actually more shocked than him. This woman was not as arrogant and ignorant as she appeared to be. She was well aware of her own strength. The white fireball just now couldn't deal with masters of the same level, but it had always been successful in killing profound ascending stage experts. How could it be evenly matched with the opponent? Although it couldn't be seen on the surface. Zhang Zili suddenly panicked a little. As an alchemist, she didn't have any powerful martial skills, and her ability to adapt on the spot was even worse. The only thing she could rely on was the huge gap in strength to crush the opponent head-on. There was no other way. But if she couldn't crush the opponent, what could she do? Kid, you have some strength. If that's the case, then I can't let you go today. Zhang Zili's expression was cold and ruthless. The stronger the opponent was, the more she had to eliminate him. Now he was only at the early profound ascending stage, and he could fight her head-on. Once he grew up in the future, it would be terrible. Is that so? Then I really have to open my eyes and see clearly. The so-called mountain opening stage giant is only SOSO. Lin Yi smiled coldly. As soon as his voice fell, his figure suddenly flashed, and he appeared in front of Zhang Zili in the blink of an eye, like a ghost. After all, he was facing a mountain opening stage giant. This time, he did not hesitate to use the extreme butterfly subtle steps, just to catch him off guard. Zhang Zili originally wanted to say a few harsh words, but she quickly swallowed them back. She, a mountain opening stage giant, was actually shocked by the speed displayed by Lin Yi at the moment. Her first reaction was not to face the enemy head-on, but to retreat. Chapter 49-27. If it was any other early-stage mountain opening realm master, when faced with Lin Yi's sudden attack, they would definitely not retreat half a step. They would definitely use their absolute strength to suppress Lin Yi head-on and then slowly crush him to death. How could they retreat so easily and be thrown into confusion? However, Zhang Zili was not an idiot. After subconsciously retreating for a moment, she quickly reacted. Retreating like this would only increase the opponent's arrogance and make the opponent stronger. After a long time, she might really fail miserably. You're looking for death. Zhang Zili's palms once again condensed white flames. As she opened and closed them, they formed a long stream of fire. She wanted to take advantage of the situation and kill the approaching Lin Yi. Unfortunately, before she could make a move, Lin Yi had already flashed to the other side like a ghost. Ignoring absolute strength in terms of battle awareness, even 100 Zhang Zili would not be Lin Yi's opponent. Her every move was within Lin Yi's expectations. Zhang Zili's attack missed and instantly revealed a small opening. However, Lin Yi did not take advantage of the situation to use the 1,000 thunder explosions. If he used the same move too many times, it would be easy for the opponent to figure it out. Moreover, it was rare for him to encounter such a weak early-stage mountain opening realm martial artist. Of course, he had to take advantage of this opportunity to test it out. In the past, Chonglading was simply too weak. At the very most, he was only able to test out the 4 elemental martial techniques before he could no longer hold on. Since his son was useless, then it was his mother's turn. She was a good opponent that had delivered herself to his doorstep. With a dragon's roar, Lin Yi's trump card, the killing aura of the 5 elements finally showed itself. After all, the opponent was a giant of the opening mountain stage, and it'd be looking down on him if he used a 4-element skill. The killing aura of the 5 elements was just the beginning. Moreover, this was not a normal 5 elements killing aura. Zhang Zili didn't have much battle awareness, but he had good eyesight. He could tell with one look that this killing aura of the 5 elements wasn't something to be underestimated. Even if it didn't look as frightening as the 1,000 lightning explosions, it was definitely more profound than the 1,000 lightning explosions. Insignificant skill. Although he said so, Zhang Zili did not dare to be negligent in the slightest. He hurriedly sent a white fireball to meet the murderous aura of the 5 elements. When the two collided head-on, everyone thought that there would be a loud bang like at the beginning, but unexpectedly, Lin Yi's 5-element murderous aura did not even make a fart movement and was directly crushed by the opponent's white fireball. From the start to the end, he did not even expend the slightest bit of energy, let alone fight on par with his opponent like he did with the 1,000 lightning burst earlier. Everyone in the surroundings couldn't help but be taken aback. After the 2 spectacular confrontations from before, they had subconsciously regarded Lin Yi as a tyrannical figure that could rival Zhang Zili. After all, from these 2 confrontations, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Instead, he was leading Zhang Zili by the nose. But this time, the gap in strength between the 2 sides was immediately exposed. This merciless Bei Dao might barely be able to exchange 1 or 2 moves with Zhang Zili, but any more than that would be impossible. After all, he was only at the early stage of mysterious ascension. Ha 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 ha. I thought you were strong, but it turns out that you're just a good-looking but useless embroidered pillow. You're exhausted so quickly? I haven't even warmed up yet. Zhang Zili sneered proudly. However, what she didn't realize was that at this moment the Alliance Master and the Alliance Guard team's mountain opening stage experts suddenly revealed a mocking expression when they heard her words. This woman still hasn't realized the danger until now. A dignified mountain opening stage giant is actually so slow, it's really sad to a certain extent. Hee, as you wish. Now we can warm up to our heart's content. Lin Yi smiled faintly. What did you say? Only at this moment did Zhang Zili suddenly feel that something was wrong. Before she could react, hundreds of 5-element murderous auras suddenly appeared in all directions, listening to the endless dragon roars. Zhang Zili's expression suddenly changed. It turned out that the 5-element murderous aura just now was not destroyed at all. It was purely a cover. It was ridiculous that she thought that this was the opponent's full strength. Let's begin. Let me see how you warm up. Lin Yi calmly snapped his fingers, and the 5-element murderous auras surrounding Zhang Zili all launched attacks at the same time. The bystanders couldn't even see Zhang Zili's shadow. They could only see the densely packed 5-element murderous auras drowning her. The scene could be described as shocking. Zhang Zili instantly became flustered. Even if she temporarily condensed the strongest white flame, it could only lock onto a few of the 5-element murderous auras in an area. It was simply unrealistic to want to destroy all of the 5-element murderous auras in one go. What she could do now was to quickly open up a gap and then break out from it. Lin Yi didn't take the opportunity to attack again. It wasn't that he was intentionally going easy on her, it was mainly because the move just now had used up all the qi in his body. At this moment, he could only take the opportunity to use the jade pendant to quickly replenish his qi while carefully observing the situation in front of him, preparing for the next move. This is a phantom. After Zhang Zili fled for a moment, she finally realized that something was wrong. Not all of the 5-element murderous auras were real. Most of them were just for show. A mere appearance actually deceived a mountain opening stage powerhouse like her. Zhang Zili immediately gritted her teeth in anger. She was clearly played by this kid in public. The leaders of the Alliance and the mountain opening stage powerhouses shook their heads again. Although this woman was an alchemist, it was understandable that her strength was weaker than the powerhouses of the same level. However, the combat ability of a dignified mountain opening stage powerhouse was actually so poor, it really made people speechless. Most of them could see at a glance that 99% of the five-element murderous auras in Lin Yi's move were just missed without any attack power. No matter how realistic the disguise was, if one's insight was strong enough, they would eventually be able to see through the flaws. What's more, even if they couldn't see through it at once, they could infer with the most basic logic. It was impossible for so many five-element murderous auras to be real, because with the strength of the five-element murderous auras, a normal early-stage profound ascending stage powerhouse could only use 5 or 6 of them, but there were hundreds of them in front of them. Even if it was Zhang Zili, she would be played around by Lin Yi's simple move of the five-element murderous aura. If it was any other mountain opening stage powerhouse present, it would be difficult for this move to have any effect at all. Chapter 49-28. Looking at Zhang Zili, whose aura was in a mess, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel pity. He unleashed the five elements, killing aura again, not giving his opponent any chance to catch her breath. This time it was still the five elements killing aura. But on top of that, Lin Yi added another attribute, the ice attribute. With that, the five elements, plus the 2 elements of ice and mist, was an unprecedented 7-element skill. This meant that other than the strongest element in his body, the lightning element, Lin Yi had successfully combined all the other elements into one. It was a miracle to be able to do this in such a short amount of time. Of course, this was also because he had the foundation of the 5 elements killing qi. He could easily merge the 5 elements together. After that, the mist and ice attributes were only a step further on this foundation. Imperceptibly, the difficulty was much lower. Otherwise, not to mention a 7-element martial skill. Just combining a 5-element martial skill was already a headache. You're out of tricks already? You're using the same move again? Do you think I'm an idiot? Zhang Zili didn't notice the difference in the 5 elements killing aura this time and continued to mock Lin Yi shamelessly. Unsurprisingly, her stupid reaction, which had no self-awareness, was once again looked down upon mercilessly by the mountain opening stage masters of the Alliance. At this moment, everyone was thinking the same question. How could such a stupid woman have such high attainments in the Tao of alchemy? Could it be that her intelligence and wisdom were all concentrated on alchemy, and she was a complete idiot in other aspects? You really are an idiot. Lin Yi said what everyone was thinking. You. Zhang Zili gritted her teeth in anger, but it was a pity that she was once again surrounded by hundreds of murderous auras of the 5 elements. There was no way she could free her hands to deal with Lin Yi. Even if 99% of the murderous auras were harmless, she still had to be careful. If the murderous auras of the 5 elements took advantage of the chaos and locked onto her vitals, it would be a disaster. With the previous experience, Zhang Zili's response this time was much more relaxed. She first used the white fireball that she was best at to blast open the encirclement, and then she evaded and circled around. This was the dumbest way to deal with it, but it was not completely ineffective. Just from this point alone, using the same move a second time would be much less effective. It was a pity that Zhang Zili didn't realize that the 5 elements, murderous aura haze this time, carried the ice attribute. Of course, if any ice attribute martial skill was used alone, it would be completely suppressed by her white fireball. It would be almost impossible for it to have any effect. However, when the ice attribute merged with the killing intent of the 5 elements, this absolute suppression no longer existed. Instead, the ice attribute was able to display its effects when she continuously fought with it. This effect was the freezing effect. Although it couldn't completely freeze Zhang Zili, her speed was obviously slowed down, but that was enough. Zhang Zili quickly became flustered, and he was exhausted from dealing with them. When facing the encirclement and obstruction of over 100 strands of 5-element killing intent, various large and small flaws emerged one after another, and the scene could be said to be filled with danger. The spectators in the distance were all dumbfounded. a profound ascending stage expert, actually bullied a mountain opening stage expert to such an extent? Was the script written wrong? Boom! Zhang Zili's weak combat accomplishment determined that she couldn't cope with this kind of predicament at all. The substantial killing intent of the 5 elements mixed in the fog finally took the opportunity to attack, hitting several vital parts of her body. Even if she was a mountain opening stage expert, she would be seriously injured by such an attack at once. Hearing this movement, everyone's heart jumped at the same time. Even if they saw everything clearly just now, they still felt incredible when they saw Zhang Zili being bombarded into the dust at this time. They looked at Lin Yi as if they were looking at a monster. This guy could even suppress a mountain opening stage expert. When did such a heaven-defying person appear in the North Island? However, Lin Yi's expression didn't show any sign of relaxing. Instead, his eyebrows tightened at this moment. Sure enough, just a moment later, Zhang Zili suddenly rushed out of the dust with a ferocious look. Her whole body was wrapped in a thin layer of white flame, and she madly rushed toward Lin Yi. Lin Yi shook his head secretly as he retreated. A mountain opening stage expert was really not easy to deal with. Even Zhang Zili, who was the weakest mountain opening stage expert without any combat awareness, was still not a trivial matter. The attack just now didn't seriously injure Zhang Zili. Seeing that she was unscathed at the moment and was wrapped in a layer of white flame, it could be inferred that it must be this thing that blocked the killing intent of the 5 elements. No matter how weak Zhang Zili was, at least she still had this life-saving trump card. Before this, from the beginning to the end, Lin Yi had been suppressing Zhang Zili in various ways. But from this moment on, the situation was suddenly completely reversed. On the contrary, Zhang Zili began to chase madly, and Lin Yi could only be chased by her. Fortunately, the extreme butterfly microstep was fast enough. Otherwise, the one who suffered a big loss at this time would be Lin Yi. At this point, the result was already obvious. 7 attribute martial arts was not enough to deal with Zhang Zili. It seemed that only 8 attribute martial arts was possible. Unfortunately, the thunder attribute in Lin Yi's body was too powerful. This certainly brought him great benefits, but at the same time there was also a big drawback, which was that it increased the difficulty of fusing it with the other 7 attributes. If Lin Yi was given a month with his comprehension, it was enough to figure out the strongest version of 8 attribute martial arts, which might be more than enough to deal with Zhang Zili. But how could he have this opportunity now? Let alone a month. Zhang Zili could not even give him the time of a stick of incense. In front of so many people, he was suppressed by a mere mysterious ascendant early stage expert. Zhang Zili, the mountain opening stage expert, had long lost his face. At this moment, he was completely furious. He desperately wanted to tear Lin Yi into pieces. Otherwise, it would be difficult to dispel the hatred in his heart. Humph. Boy, if you have any tricks, just use them. Why, are you at your wits' end this time? Zhang Zili laughed coldly as he chased after Lin Yi. It doesn't matter how many tricks you have up your sleeves. The difference in strength is right here. You will die today. No one can save you. This time, Lin Yi did not answer. He just buried his head and fled everywhere, giving people the feeling that he was really at his wits' end, and the situation had become dangerous. Chapter 49-29. Huang Xiaodao's heart was burning with anxiety. She saw that Lin Yi's dodging was getting more and more difficult, and she couldn't help but want to help. She didn't care if the opponent was a master of the mountain opening stage or not. As long as they did harm to Lin Yi, they would be her mortal enemy. But Wang Xinyan quietly pulled her back, shook her head, and whispered, "Watch carefully, we can't interfere in a battle of this level." But Huang Xiaotao understood this as well. They wouldn't be able to help Zhang Zili if they interfered with their current strength, and they might even drag Lin Yi down. Even so, they couldn't just stand by and watch, could they? Were they just going to watch Lin Yi fall into a hopeless situation like this? He never does things he's not confident in. Since he said that it means that he won't lose, at least he won't be at a disadvantage. Let's open our eyes and watch. Wang Xinyan smiled and shook her head. She knew Lin Yi too well. If Lin Yi didn't have this confidence, he wouldn't have attacked Zhang Zili just now. He would definitely think of a way to use the Morning Star Academy's name to solve this problem as much as possible. Really? Huang Xiaotao was still a little worried, but she didn't have any intention of interfering. Since Wang Xinyan trusted Lin Yi so much, she had no reason not to. While the two girls were talking, it was unknown whether it was because Zhang Zili was getting faster and faster, or because Lin Yi was getting slower and slower, but the situation became more and more dangerous. Lin Yi narrowly avoided the white fireballs a few times, causing the surrounding people to exclaim. Everyone knew that this white fireball was not to be underestimated. Once touched by it, it wouldn't just be a problem of getting injured, the whole person might turn into ashes. Zhang Zili was a mountain opening stage powerhouse after all, and this was not a joke. What's this kid doing? Others couldn't see it, but the leader of the alliance could clearly see that Lin Yi wasn't as passive as he seemed on the surface. He seemed to be preparing for something. He should be exhausted. After all, he's only at the early stage of the mysterious ascension realm. No matter how strong he is, the true qi in his body is a shortcoming that he can't overcome. The guard captain at the middle stage of the mountain opening realm frowned. The surrounding mountain opening stage giants also nodded. Today's battle was an eye-opener for them. They had never seen such a powerful, early-stage, mystical ascendant master. But even so, none of them were optimistic about Lin Yi's chances. To be honest, Lin Yi had used so many powerful moves in succession, but he still had the strength to dodge, which was already beyond their expectations. If it was an ordinary, early-stage, profound ascension expert, not to mention continuing to deal with Zhang Zili, he would have long exhausted his qi and died of exhaustion. Maybe, but I have a feeling that this kid is not that simple. The Alliance Master shook his head thoughtfully. His strength was far above everyone else's, so he was naturally able to see things more thoroughly than everyone else. However, he really couldn't think of any backup plan that Lin Yi could have left behind. This was indeed illogical. Kid, you're about to die of exhaustion, right? Haha, I've just finished warming up. Today, I'll let you have a good taste of despair. I'll burn you into ashes bit by bit. Zhang Zili laughed like a crazy woman. As she spoke, she finally found a flaw in Lin Yi. Two blazing white flames instantly stuck to Lin Yi, surrounding him from all directions. All of a sudden, all of his escape routes were blocked. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's expressions changed at the same time. They believed in Lin Yi, but the situation was too dangerous. The two girls almost wanted to attack at the same time. However, at this moment, Lin Yi, who was trapped in the middle of the white flames, smiled instead. There was no panic in his tone, and he still seemed calm and composed. That's such a coincidence. I've just finished warming up, so I can start to get serious. You're still so stubborn, even when you're about to die. Die. Zhang Zili didn't believe Lin Yi's bullshit at all. Under her control, the white flames pressed down on Lin Yi from all directions, drowning him in a sea of white flames. Lin Yi didn't even look at it. He suddenly raised his hands and shouted, "Thunder Burial! Thunder Burial!" Everyone present, including the Union Master, was shocked when they heard this name. They all looked at each other in confusion. The Thunder Burial was a specialty of Thunderous Plains Island. However, the sky was clear and boundless. Where was the slightest sign of a thunder burial? Ha 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 ha! Acting all mysterious and boasting shamelessly. You think someone like you can get a thunder burial? You're not that strong, but you sure know how to bluff. Zhang Zili laughed coldly. However, before she could finish laughing, the originally cloudless sky suddenly surged with winds and clouds. Following that, a gigantic pillar of lightning that was comparable to the weight of 10 people came crashing down. The previous 1,000 thunder explosions was only dark blue, but this time the gigantic pillar of lightning was shockingly tinged with a faint purple color. Zhang Zili didn't even have a chance to react. She was hit on the spot. It was also a lightning-type killer move. If the previous 1,000 thunderbolts explosion was said to be shocking, then the thunder burial that descended from the sky, this time, completely stunned everyone present. Even the Alliance leader and the mountain opening stage powerhouses were shocked and speechless for a long time. In front of the power of the thunder burial pillar, Zhang Zili's white flames didn't have the slightest resistance. Just the aftermath of the thunder burial easily flattened it. Even Lin Yi was sent flying. This is a thunder burial. After the guild leader regained his senses, his face instantly turned green. He had been watching the show from the sidelines. When he saw Zhang Zili being defeated by Lin Yi, he even felt secretly happy. After all, this woman was really annoying. If he didn't need her help, how could he, the guild leader, be so humble? But although he was secretly happy, the guild leader definitely couldn't let anything happen to Zhang Zili, especially under his watch. Otherwise, if Zhang Zili really fell, who would refine pills for him? Like everyone else, the guild leader still underestimated Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi had the upper hand at the beginning and forced Zhang Zili into a panic, he still didn't think that Lin Yi could cause any substantial damage to Zhang Zili. No matter how difficult the process was, Zhang Zili would have the last laugh in the end. Chapter 49:30. In reality, before Lin Yi used the thunder burial, the situation was indeed within the president's expectations. That was why he could be so relaxed and not worry about the situation getting out of control. But at this moment he was dumbfounded. He never would have thought that Lin Yi could actually activate the thunder burial. What was going on? Although thunder element cultivators were very rare, with his experience, it was not like he had never seen one before. In conclusion, they were indeed much stronger than ordinary cultivators. But activating the thunder burial? Was this something that a normal person could do? Not to mention a mere early-stage mysterious ascending realm cultivator. Even a mountain opening stage cultivator who was mainly thunder element couldn't use such a heaven-defying method. Right? There was still a glimmer of hope for those legendary thunder element spiritual beasts. But this brat was obviously a human cultivator. The president's eyesight was not so bad that he couldn't even differentiate between a human and a spiritual beast. As suspicious as he was, the guild leader still saw through some clues. He'd felt that something was wrong from the moment Lin Yi kept dodging, and now that he thought about it, it was clear that the kid was using the opportunity to store up a big move. Zhang Zili, that stupid woman, didn't know anything about it at all, and let the guy unleash that shocking lightning burial. After all, he was the strongest person present. What the president guessed was right. Lin Yi did indeed do this. This thunder burial was simply an upgraded version of the Thunder 1,000 explosion. However, he used the profound meaning of the vital energy bomb and continuously condensed all the power of thunder in his body to form an ultimate move. One should know that what was hidden in Lin Yi's body was not only his own power of thunder. There was also the powerful electricity left by the purple lightning from the resentful spirit. In addition, Lin Yi's endless vital energy was transformed into the power of thunder. After combining the two, all of it poured out in the form of the vital energy bomb version of the Thunder 1,000 explosion. The effect was astonishing. There was no other way. Facing a mountain opening stage cultivator like Zhang Zili, he had to use this almost extreme method. Otherwise, he could only make the opponent embarrassed like before, but not hurt her at all. Of course, if Zhang Zili had been replaced by other giants in the mountain opening stage, Lin Yi probably wouldn't even have the chance to use this ultimate move, let alone defeat his enemy with one move. Unlike the 1,000 thunderbolt explosion from before, not only was thunder burial far more powerful than the 1,000 thunderbolt explosion, but it also lasted much longer. After Zhang Zili was struck, his entire body was sucked into the air. He twitched and struggled madly, and there were even scalp-numbing howls of pain mixed in. Lin nodded secretly. The life force of a mountain opening stage powerhouse was indeed strong. If it was a profound ascending stage powerhouse, even if it was a profound ascending great perfection stage powerhouse, they wouldn't even be able to withstand the ultimate move of Thunder Burial. They would probably be turned into ashes in the blink of an eye, but Zhang Zili could still show such suffering. At a time like this, suffering was also a form of strength, because those who were not strong enough would not even have the qualifications to endure suffering. At this moment, Lin Yi's eyelids suddenly twitched. He had been paying attention to the Alliance leader in the distance. Although this guy said that he wouldn't intervene in the beginning, Lin Yi didn't believe such nonsense. Sure enough, the Alliance leader finally couldn't hold back and made a move. However, he wasn't aiming at Lin Yi. Instead, he raised his hand, and a cyan arrow-like force forcefully split Thunder Burial in half. At the same time, the Alliance leader's figure flashed. Others felt as if he hadn't moved at all, but there was one more person in his hand. It was Zhang Zili, who was hit by Thunder Burial. So strong! Lin Yi was secretly shocked by the scene. Rumor had it that the Alliance leader was a master in the Earth opening stage, which was above the mountain opening stage. Now it seemed that it was true. Otherwise, if he was only in the mountain opening stage, even if he could deal with Thunder Burial, he wouldn't be able to do it so easily, right? But even so, the Alliance leader still couldn't save Zhang Zili. At this time, this woman's body was emitting black smoke, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. It was exactly the same as the two unlucky Chancellor and Chang Lading. The whole audience was dead silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. If Lin Yi defeating two profound ascending late-stage masters was still within the scope of their understanding, then this scene had completely exceeded the limit of their understanding. A profound ascending early-stage master crossing a whole realm to defeat a mountain opening stage magnate master. When did the world become so crazy? This was not only unbelievable, but it completely subverted common sense. Not to mention, seeing it, they had never even heard of it. Speaking of which, the East Continent itself was a place where geniuses gathered. Geniuses who could challenge above their level were very rare in other Heaven Stage islands, but here there were a lot of them. It was not uncommon for a profound ascending stage master to defeat a mountain opening stage magnate, but those were all well-known profound ascending great perfection stage masters. How could a mere profound ascending early stage do such a thing? Only Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's expressions were relatively normal. Although they were worried for Lin Yi, they knew that fighting an enemy that was a whole level higher was nothing out of the ordinary for Lin Yi, even though it was shocking to others. But for Lin Yi, it was nothing out of the ordinary. Since he could do it in the past, now that he had become a profound ascending early stage master, defeating a mountain opening stage magnate was not strange at all. Looking at Zhang Zili, whose life and death were unknown, the Alliance leader was dumbfounded for a moment. After a moment, his face became gloomy and he looked at Lin Yi coldly. "Kid, what do you mean by this?" A suffocating pressure followed, and Lin Yi was even more certain of this person's strength. He was indeed not a mountain opening stage magnate, but an earth opening stage master. Nothing. Since she wants to deal with me, naturally, she has to be prepared to be dealt with by me. Lin Yi's expression didn't change at all as he looked at him calmly. Plus, as I said before, I even confirmed with the guild leader before I made my move. I asked if I would take responsibility if I killed her, and she said no. This is something that everyone can see. Could it be that the guild leader still wants to stand up for her? His words were reasonable, and the people who were watching from afar nodded. At the time, they thought that this guy was just bullshitting, but they didn't expect him to actually have the strength to kill Zhang Zili. What a freak! Although the North Island's overall strength wasn't that strong, it had produced quite a number of heaven-defying characters. Shanghai Tianhua, Zhang Liju, these were all famous characters in the East Continent, and it seemed that there would be another legend of the North Island from now on. Chapter 49:31. However, he really did need Zhang Zili's help. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so submissive before. But now, Zhang Zili was emitting black smoke from his body. What should he do? No matter what, you were the one who started this. Now that so many people have been injured, and even Master Zhang is lying on the ground, you have to give me a reasonable explanation, the Union Master said in an unpredictable tone. That's right. This matter was really unexpected, for people had been knocked down by this kid, and all of them were from the Tripod City Academy. Chong Lading, the young master with a strong background, two late Mysterious Ascension Academy chancellors, and now Zhang Zili. This was a big mess. If he couldn't give an explanation, he might as well give up his position as the president of the Academy Alliance. He could ignore everything else, but he had to at least give a satisfactory explanation to the Tripod City Academy. After all, it was one of the most influential Golden Stage academies. Moreover, he had something to ask of them. Explanation? Lin Yi looked at the president without batting an eyelid and asked with a deep meaning, I wonder what kind of explanation the president wants. You can't be thinking of using me as an apology, right? The guild master's heart skipped a beat. To be honest, the thought had popped up in his head for a moment, but he pushed it down immediately. While he had a favor to ask from Cauldron City, he wasn't stupid enough to offend Lin Yi, an early-stage mysterious ascending expert who could defeat a mountain opening stage giant. The significance of this was too great. There was no doubt that this kid's future was absolutely limitless, not to mention becoming a mountain opening stage giant. Even if he was on equal footing with him, the leader of the Alliance, it would be a matter of course. If he offended Lin Yi today, unless he was ruthless enough to eliminate him completely, he would be making himself a great enemy for no reason. A great enemy who could possibly surpass him in the future. If it was just potential, it wouldn't be a big deal. The number of super geniuses who had died in his hands was at least 80. Nipping a threat in the bud was a common thing in the East Continent, so it wasn't enough to scare him. What the Alliance leader was truly worried about was the other meaning. A genius like Lin Yi was definitely not someone that could be nurtured by ordinary forces. He must have an incomparably powerful background behind him. Perhaps it was one of the few who stood at the peak of the Yellow Class Sea region. This was the most frightening part. If he made a move against Lin Yi today, he might not even have to wait until tomorrow before a super powerhouse standing at the peak of the 5 heaven rank islands came to have a heart-to-heart talk with him. He still wanted to live for a few hundred or 1,000 years. After some thought, the Alliance president finally suppressed this dangerous thought and asked, Which academy are you from? Your academy's qualification to participate in the next path of the Tyrant Trial is revoked. Instead of making a move against Lin Yi himself, he would make a move against the academy behind him. This was the safest way he could think of. He could use it to fool the Tripod City Academy, and he wouldn't really offend Lin Yi. After all, he was the Alliance president. It was within his authority to make a move against any Yellow Class Academy, and no one else could criticize him. Lin Yi was slightly stunned when he heard this, but he immediately understood what the Alliance president was thinking. The corner of his mouth curved up slightly, and he said calmly, I'm sorry, I don't belong to any academy. I'm from the North Island. The North Island? The Alliance president was stunned. He didn't know what had happened before, so he naturally didn't know where Lin Yi came from. He blurted out in disbelief, Are you lying to me? Of course not. Lin Yi smiled faintly, and he suddenly walked forward, setting up a divine sense barrier that could prevent people from spying on them. The Alliance president saw this and knew that Lin Yi wanted to tell him something secretive, so he didn't stop him. Instead, he set up a stronger divine sense barrier as well. After all, Lin Yi's strength was clear for all to see, and his divine sense barrier might not be effective against the Alliance's opening stage masters. I'm Lin Yi, a disciple of the Shanghai Tianhua of the North Island, and also the last disciple of the pill god Zhang Liju. Lin Yi said faintly in a low voice. What? The Alliance president's face changed when he heard this. Lin Yi's words were earth-shattering news, and the shock it brought him was no less than when he defeated Zhang Zili. No wonder he had to set up a divine sense barrier. One sentence brought out two legends of the North Island, and Lin Yi's words were indeed earth-shattering. Speaking of which, Shanghai Tianhua wasn't a big deal. Although this was a supermaster who had once dominated the East Continent, and the Alliance president's strength was far from being on par with him, he really wasn't afraid of Shanghai Tianhua. After all, this was the East Continent, and Shanghai Tianhua was far away in the North Island. There were rules among the top masters, and because of that, Shanghai Tianhua couldn't come to East Continent easily, and it was even more impossible for him to seek revenge for a disciple. But the latter part of Lin Yi's words made the Alliance president's heart skip a beat. Looking at the 5 sky-class islands, the pill god Zhang Liju was a legend that could be counted with one's fingers, especially in the world of elixir refinement. This kind of influence and power was much stronger than the Shanghai Tianhua of the North Island. Plus, the Alliance president's biggest problem now was finding someone to concoct pills for him. Why did he have to lower his voice to Zhang Zili? Wasn't it because he wanted his help? One had to know that Zhang Zili was the only mystic-ranked first-level alchemist in the entire East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea region. Although he had just broken through, a mystic-ranked alchemist was still a mystic-ranked alchemist. Just this point alone made Zhang Zili sit firmly on the position of the Yellow Steppe Sea region's #1 alchemist. No one could shake him, let alone the Golden Class Sea region. Even in the higher Mystic Class Sea region, there weren't many Mystic first-level refiners. For a Mystic refiner like Zhang Zili to appear in the Golden Class Sea region out of nowhere was something that had never happened before. Even the Golden Class School Alliance had to treat her with respect, and it was no wonder that she was so arrogant and condescending. The Alliance president had no choice but to ask her for help. After all, she was the only Mystic first-level refiner here. Going to the Mystic Class Sea region to ask for help was much harder than asking Zhang Zili for help. He might be the Golden Class School Alliance president, and he could do whatever he wanted in the Golden Class Sea region. But once he went to the Mystic Class Sea region, there were many people stronger than him. It was impossible to ask for help from a Mystic first-level refiner. Chapter 4932. It wasn't easy to invite Zhang Zili over, but Lin Yi turned him into this. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't pissed. If it weren't for his concerns, he would have killed 100 Lin Yis to vent his anger. But now, after hearing that Lin Yi claimed to be Zhang Liju's disciple, the guild master's eyes lit up. "You're a refiner?" The guild master asked subconsciously. If Lin Yi didn't say that, he wouldn't have thought of it in this direction. After all, refiners were synonymous with weak strength. How could there be a refiner as strong as Lin Yi? Of all the refiners with this kind of strength, there was only Zhang Liju. Perhaps even he couldn't compare to this Lin Yi. Killing a mountain opening, early stage mystic ascension, early stage. Zhang Liju didn't have such a heaven-defying record back then. Mystic first level. Lin Yi was a master at lying. He didn't even bat an eyelid, calm and confident. The guild master had no choice but to believe him. "Are you serious? You're not lying to me?" The guild master was shocked. With such strength at such a young age, Lin Yi was definitely one of the top geniuses he had ever seen. But this guy claimed to be a mystic first-level refiner? This was heaven-defying. If it were anyone else who said this, the guild master would have sent them flying with a slap. Randomly meeting a mystic first-level refiner in the Golden Class waters. Did he think he was an idiot? But Lin Yi was different. Just the way he challenged Zhang Zili was enough to impress him. He didn't believe anyone else claiming to be a mystic first-level refiner. But since it came from Lin Yi, he really had to think about it. After all, This guy claimed to be Zhang Liju's disciple. If this was true, then it wouldn't be strange if Lin Yi was a mystic first-level refiner. To be able to become Zhang Liju's disciple meant that he had to be extremely talented. In terms of status, he was even higher than a normal disciple. If someone like this wasn't a mystic first-level refiner, then it would be a problem. Haha, with the guild master's intelligence, do you think I can fool you? Lin Yi gave him a compliment without a trace. Everyone liked to listen to compliments, and this powerful alliance leader was no exception. The Union Master's face softened a little, but he wouldn't believe Lin Yi's words just like that. He said he was a mystic level 1 refiner, and he said he was Zhang Liju's last disciple. There wasn't even a single witness. Who knew if this kid was just trying to scare the Union Master? Who can prove it? The guild master asked. Here, you can go ask that chick. Lin Yi pointed at Ni Kaiwe, who wasn't far away. At the same time, he was secretly happy. Since the guild master asked this, it meant that he had taken the bait. Lin Yi, of course, couldn't be considered a true mystic first-level refiner. He had never made a mystic first-level refiner before, but this didn't stop him from using this trick to bait the guild master. He wasn't just bluffing. After all, from a certain perspective, Lin Yi's skills were far above a normal 7th-level refiner. Otherwise, Qing Danzi wouldn't have begged him to be his disciple. It wasn't too much to pretend to be a mystic first-level refiner. The reason why he suddenly used this trick was because Lin Yi saw through the guild master's weakness. This guy didn't really care about Zhang Zili's life and death. He was so humble to Zhang Zili just now. It was obvious that he had something to ask of him. Combining their identities, it wasn't hard to deduce that the mystic first-level refiner was the best trick to deal with him. After all, he was the president of the union. If he was just looking for someone to help him with alchemy, he should have a lot of 7th-grade alchemists under his command. Only a profound grade alchemist could make him humble like this. To put it bluntly, from the moment Lin Yi admitted his identity, it was a trap. He lured the guild master step by step, and now he was only one step away from success. Scaring someone was a highly technical job. Not only did he have to be observant, but he also had to find the right solution to the problem. He also had to make use of the opponent's mentality to build momentum, making sure that his cover was flawless. Lin Yi was evidently very familiar with this. She should be in the same group as you? The guild master glanced at Ni Kaiwe suspiciously. Since they were in the same group, then this woman's words didn't have any credibility. It was useless to ask. Witnesses can lie, but material evidence won't lie. Lin Yi smiled meaningfully. The guild master was stunned when he heard the words, and then he understood Lin Yi's meaning. He immediately raised his hand and pointed at Ni Kaiwe and said, "You, come here." Because of the existence of the divine sense barrier, everyone around could only see the conversation between Lin Yi and the guild master, but they didn't know what they were talking about. Even if everyone was itching in their hearts, they wouldn't dare to pry. After all, there was not only Lin Yi, ruthless person who could challenge higher realms, but there was also a super master like the guild master. If they made any small movements, it would be impossible to escape the guild master's eyes and ears. At that time, they wouldn't even know how they died. As a result, when everyone was itching in their hearts, the voice of the guild master suddenly came from inside, and everyone's eyes fell on Ni Kaiwe. Ah, me. Ni Kaiwe was shocked when she saw the guild master pointing at her. She panicked and stuttered. Although I'm in cahoots with him, I didn't hit anyone. Don't arrest me! Don't arrest me! Everyone listened and looked at Ni Kaiwe in a daze, not knowing what to say for a moment. Although Lin Yi had long been used to this girl's magical thinking, at this time he also had a speechless expression. What kind of thinking is this? If you really want to disassociate yourself, then don't say that you're in cahoots. In the end, you say that you're in cahoots, but at the same time you say don't arrest me. Is this something a normal person can say? Lin Yi shook his head inwardly. It was fortunate that he'd managed to scare the Alliance's leader. Otherwise the girl would have been dragged into the mess as well. That would have made him speechless. I'm not going to arrest you. I just want to ask you a few questions. The guild master frowned. If that's the case, okay then. You said you won't arrest me. And I, Kai Wei repeated worriedly, and then carefully walked to the side of the two. Chapter 49:33. I, Kai Wei subconsciously looked at Lin Yi, then shrunk her neck and replied, My name is Kai Wei. I'm a disciple of Donghua Academy. Okay, then tell me, is he a mystic level first level alchemist? The union leader asked directly. He's a mystic level first level alchemist? Kai Wei heard this and jumped up in shock. Luckily, there was a spiritual barrier around them, or else her voice would have been heard by the entire dock. You don't know? The union leader frowned and looked at Lin Yi. He thought that since this woman was on the same side, she would definitely nod without hesitation. Who would have thought that she would have this kind of reaction? I don't know, he didn't tell me. I only know that he's an alchemist. Kai Wei thought for a moment, then added, A very powerful alchemist. Oh, how powerful! The union leader's eyes lit up. He was able to refine 7 profound nurturing pills in less than half a day. Moreover, he only used 4 sets of ingredients. Isn't he amazing? Tsayue's face was filled with pride as she said. Lin Yi was speechless. This silly girl really didn't have any wariness at all. Was this something that she could casually tell others? Previously, she was harassed by Chonglading and the others, and it was not wrong at all. But then again, he had already expected this. He had asked the union leader to ask Kai Wei for proof. If not, it would be hard for the other party to believe that he was a mystic level first level alchemist. After all, there was no proof for this kind of thing. He had to have enough evidence. Really? The union leader was instantly excited. 4 sets of materials to make 7 qi cultivating pills, and in less than half a day. This was definitely not something a 7th level alchemist could do. Once the truth of this matter could be verified, then there was no doubt that he was a mystic level first level alchemist. Of course it's true. I was the one who found the profound raising grass here. Here, these 3 profound raising pills were concocted by him. As Kai Wei spoke, she pulled out the 3 profound raising pills with an expression of fear that the other party would not believe her. Lin Yi was even more speechless. Although all of this was within his expectations, it was rare to see someone as forgetful as Kai Wei. Wasn't this silly girl afraid that the other party would be tempted by her wealth? But then again, Kai Wei was not really stupid. She was very careful when she took the profound raising pills. She deliberately used her body to block everyone's line of sight, only letting the union president see it. With the union president's strength and status, he naturally would not covet her trifling 3 profound raising pills. If she did not give them away, these pills would be completely useless to him. Looking at the 3 profound nurturing pellets in Tsayue's hands, the union leader sank into silence, unable to conceal the shock on his face. Of course, he knew that the path of a tycoon produced profound, nurturing grass, and these 3 pellets were of high quality, full of pill fragrance. They did not seem like pellets that had been concocted for a long time, but rather recently. In other words, Tsayue's words could be trusted. In fact, from the moment Kai Wei introduced herself, it was impossible for her to lie, because this kind of lie could be easily exposed, and once it was exposed, the anger of the leader of the union was not something that a disciple of the early stage of the mysterious Ascension realm could bear. After a moment of silence, the union leader's attitude suddenly changed. He turned to Lin Yi and smiled apologetically. Master Lin, let me reintroduce myself. I, and the Golden Academy Union leader, Zhuang Yifan. I was presumptuous just now. Please forgive me, Master Lin. Lin Yi saw the change in Zhuang Yifan's expression clearly. He couldn't help but chuckle to himself. The big shots of the East Continent were much more snobbish than the big shots of the other Heaven Rank Islands. The big shots of the other Heaven Rank Islands all had to respect themselves and put on airs no matter what they did. However, the people of the East Continent were different. Almost every one of them had the ability to change their expressions. Lin was already used to it. As the president of the alliance, Zhuang Yifan had always held a high position and was full of arrogance. He didn't even bother to let the Yellow Step Academy students know his name during the trial. That kind of arrogance was practically carved into his bones. But now he took the initiative to introduce himself with a smile. Coupled with his previous submissive attitude toward Zhang Zili, it could be seen that this person was also someone who knew when to submit and when to stand tall. His arrogance also depended on the person. President Zhuang, you're exaggerating. From the beginning to the end, you didn't do anything inappropriate. If I were in your position, I would have made the same choice. So you don't have to worry about such a small matter. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Although it was a little arrogant to talk to Zhuang Yifan in this tone, he was now a mystic-level, first-level alchemist. If he didn't act so pretentiously, the other party might even suspect something was wrong. As expected of Senior Shangguan and Master Zhang's brilliant disciple, not only is Master Lin's strength extraordinary, but he also has such a rare temperament. You can be considered a role model for the young people of the East Continent. Zhuang Yifan smiled. He wasn't just flattering Lin Yi. He was truly impressed. One should know that the more talented one was, the more arrogant they were. He had seen his fair share of super geniuses. Although they were indeed outstanding, they all had their eyes on the top of their heads. Based on this point alone, Lin Yi, who knew when to advance and when to retreat, was at least 10 streets ahead of those super geniuses. President Zhuang, you flatter me. Lin Yi smiled noncommittally. He turned to look at Zhang Zili and the others who were lying unconscious on the side and said, Then what do you plan to do about today's incident? Do you need me to give you another explanation? Hee, Master Lin, you must be joking. They all brought this upon themselves. Zhang Zili also said that this was a private matter between you all. You kept saying that they died for nothing. I couldn't even persuade them to stop. This is obvious to all. Why would I need to do anything unnecessary? Zhuang Yifan was quick to turn hostile. Forget standing up for Zhang Zili. He would be lucky if he didn't step forward and kick her. Of course, this was also because Zhang Zili didn't know how to behave herself. She thought that because she was a mystic-level first-level alchemist, she could act all high and mighty, just because Zhuang Yifan wanted something from her. Based on her previous behavior, anyone would be furious, not to mention Zhuang Yifan. Lin Yi smiled. This was expected. Zhuang Yifan waved his hand and said to the alliance guards beside him, Send Master Zhang and the others back to the Tripod City Academy's treasure ship. Although this is a private matter between them, it's not right to leave them lying here. Chapter 49-34. They didn't know what the two of them were whispering about. Seeing that Zhuang Yifan's attitude toward Zhang Zili's group had suddenly become so cold, they couldn't help but be astonished. However, they didn't dare to show any neglect on their faces and hurriedly carried Zhang Zili's group away. They were only responsible for sending them back to the Tripod City Academy ship. They didn't care about anything else. They didn't even care if Zhang Zili and the others were dead or alive. Everyone knew that this was a hot potato, and they would avoid it. Why would they care about other people's business? Master Lin, if you don't mind, why don't we go to the Alliance's division for a cup of tea? Let me be the host? From beginning to end, Zhuang Yifan didn't even look at Zhang Zili and the others. He was wholeheartedly trying to please Lin Yi. There's an Alliance division here. Lin Yi was slightly surprised. That's right. The headquarters of the Huang Grade College Alliance is located in Leidong City, but Leidong Plain Island is an important place for the Alliance. Naturally, there's a branch here as well. The conditions are not bad. Master Lin, you can go there to rest and relieve your fatigue, Zhuang Yifan introduced with a smile. Oh, I'll send the Morning Star Academy's disciples back first. I'll go back at night when I have time. Lin Yi nodded. Of course, of course. I'll send you back. Zhuang Yifan hurried to please him. As the president of the Golden Rank Academy Alliance, it was hard for him to humble himself like this. However, there was no other way. Alchemists had such a high status, especially Mystic Level 1 alchemists. Even in the Mystic Sea region, they were respected guests no matter where they went. Even Magnate Realm experts, like them, didn't dare to look down on these people. Most of the time, they had to be as careful as they were now. After all, there was no telling when they would have to beg the alchemist for help. All right. Lin Yi glanced at him with a smile that wasn't quite a smile and didn't hold back. In fact, he couldn't be polite even if he wanted to. Even though Zhuang Yifan already believed that he was a Mystic Level 1 alchemist, it was obvious that he didn't trust him completely. Other than trying to please Lin Yi, Zhuang Yifan was probably afraid that Lin Yi would slip away halfway. If Lin Yi were to reject him, it would only make him suspicious. Little and I, let's part ways here. We'll meet again in the future. Lin Yi turned around and bid farewell to Enai Kaiwe. Enai Kaiwe was still in a daze. She was stunned for a long time before she nodded her head. From the moment Lin Yi took care of the two unlucky chancellors, to when he went against a trend and overthrew Zhang Ziji, and now she was inexplicably being complimented by Zhuang Yifan. The series of events today could be said to be a series of shocking twists and turns. Even now, she still hadn't fully recovered from it. Seeing this, Lin Yi chuckled and no longer paid attention to this silly girl. He extended his hand and called Wang Xingyan and the others over, under the respectful gazes of the crowd. Zhuang Yifan personally escorted them back to the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship. At the same time, the treasured ship of the Morning Star Academy was in a mess. The commotion caused by Lin Yi and the others was too big. Not only did it attract the attention of many of the Academy's disciples, but the huge commotion caused by the thunder burial was even more earth-shattering, causing the surrounding sea to surge. If not for the huge tonnage of the treasured ship, it would have capsized long ago. Under these circumstances, if the people on the ship still didn't know that something had happened to Lin Yi and the others, they would definitely be deceiving themselves. It was just that the two places were too far apart, so they didn't know the specifics of the situation. They only knew that Lin Yi and the others were in huge trouble. At this moment, the leader of the chancellors was burning with anxiety. Although Lin Yi wasn't a disciple of the Morning Star Academy, his position in the academy was far more important than the other disciples. If he were to fall on the Thunder Plains Island as the leader of the chancellors, he would really have to carry his head back. The heads of the academy would definitely not let him off easily. As for the chief alchemist, Qing Danzi, he would probably fight to the death with him. Fortunately, the news that they had received at this time only stopped at the point where the Alliance guards had captured Lin Yi. They still didn't know that Lin Yi and Zhang Zili, the head of the mountain opening stage, were going to fight to the death. Otherwise, the leader of the chancellors would probably faint from fear. There's no other way. The only thing we can do now is to quickly send a message to the heads of the academy. No matter what, we have to think of a way to redeem Master Lin. We can't let him be detained in this place. Otherwise, if something happens to him, I won't be able to be a chancellor anymore. The leader of the chancellors was anxious like an ant on a hot pan. He muttered as he paced around. On the other side of the ship, Bao Zuoliang and Su Kishing, who had returned long ago, were gloating. If it weren't for so many pairs of eyes on the ship, the two of them would have wanted to start a celebration banquet to celebrate. Ever since they went for wool and came home shorn on the path of a tycoon, these two had a belly full of bad luck. If it weren't for the fact that they had some self-awareness, they might have continued to try and get Lin Yi killed on the path of a tycoon. But that was just a fantasy. Even if Bao Zhuliang was impulsive, Su Kexing would definitely stop him. He had no choice but to stop him. He would be courting death if he went to the path of giants. But this time, the two of them didn't need to worry about it all. Lin Yi, the arrogant, pretentious guy, kicked an iron plate himself. After coming out, he actually dared to cause trouble in public. Even the Alliance guards were alarmed. Could it be that he would still have a good ending? The Alliance guards are famous for being tyrannical and overbearing. Lin Yi, that kid, is also arrogant, now that he has fallen into the hands of the Alliance guards. Even if he doesn't die, he will lose a layer of skin. Bao Zhuliang lowered his voice and said excitedly, "In my opinion, it's not as simple as losing a layer of skin. Maybe this guy won't even be able to keep his life." Su Kexing sneered. "It can't be, right? Even the Alliance guards won't kill people casually. It can't be that exaggerated, right?" Although Bao Zhuliang wanted Lin Yi to die even in his dreams, he hadn't reached the point of deceiving himself. Originally there wasn't, but this time there definitely is. And I dare say that there is an 80 to 90% chance. Su Kexing said confidently, "Why is that? Tell me quickly." Bao Zhuliang's eyes suddenly lit up. "Young Master Bao, didn't you hear what those people said just now? The person Lin Yi provoked this time is not an ordinary person. It's Chang Lading of Tripod City Academy. That's a famous person. Moreover, he even knocked out 2 chancellors of Tripod City Academy. Now that things have escalated to this point, it's already too late to resolve," Su Kexing analyzed. "But even so, he won't be killed directly, right?" Bao Zhuliang was a little stunned. Chapter 4935. That's right. Great, that's great. Lin Yi is dead for sure. Bao Zhuliang was so excited that he laughed heartily. Even if you beat them to death, they wouldn't have thought that the mountain opening stage magnate was already dead and had already become Lin Yi's stepping stone. Just as the two of them were rejoicing in Lin Yi's misfortune, their expressions suddenly froze at the same time. They were shocked to see that Lin Yi and the rest had actually returned unscathed, and there was no sign of the Alliance's guards. What's going on? Bao Zhuliang was dumbfounded. This was completely different from what he had expected. It's indeed a little strange, but we can confirm that Lin Yi has indeed committed a crime. Young Master Bao, look, even the president of the Alliance was alarmed, and he actually personally escorted him back. It's obvious how serious this matter is. Su Kexing immediately saw through the truth. That's right. You're still the one who sees things clearly. You hit the nail on the head. I almost thought that he had escaped unscathed. Bao Zhuliang immediately heaved a sigh of relief. As the two of them spoke, the rest of the people on the boat also saw Lin Yi and the rest. Suddenly seeing Zhuang Yifan, the chancellor who was at his wits' end, suddenly jumped in fright. Without caring about anything else, he immediately rushed off the boat to welcome them. "I am the chancellor of the Morning Star Academy, Li Ren. I didn't know that President Zhuang would personally come, so I didn't welcome you. Please forgive me, President Zhuang." Li Ren respectfully greeted him. Although he was relieved to see that Lin Yi and the rest were unscathed, Zhuang Yifan's personal appearance still made his heart tremble. Because of the previous news, he and Bao Zhuliang had the same preconceived idea that Zhuang Yifan had personally escorted Lin Yi back. "Chancellor Li, you're exaggerating." Zhuang Yifan calmly waved his hand, not in the mood to talk to Li Ren. He was the dignified president of the Alliance, while the other party was just a lowly chancellor. Both of them were far apart in terms of strength and status. He, Zhuang Yifan, could humble himself in front of mystic alchemists like Zhang Zili and Lin Yi, but in front of these people he was the high and mighty leader of the Union with an intimidating aura full of authority. Under normal circumstances, Li Ren would not have dared to speak to Zhuang Yifan. However, he had no choice but to do so. He could only bite the bullet and apologize. President Zhuang, Master Lin is an important guest of our Morning Star Academy. His participation in the Path of the Magnate was approved by the Alliance headquarters. Since he is not familiar with the rules of the Academy Alliance, I hope President Zhuang will forgive him if he has done anything wrong. Our Morning Star Academy will take full responsibility. Shoulder all the responsibility. Zhuang Yifan looked at him strangely. If Lin Yi wasn't a mystic rank 1 alchemist, he would have died 1,000 times over for what he had done. Even Zhang Zili was beaten to the point of death. How could a mere Morning Star Academy take full responsibility for this? Zhang Zili was the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy. He was the leader of the alchemists in the entire Yellow Class C region. Now that something had happened to her, even an idiot would know that the Tripod City Academy would not let this go easily. Although the Morning Star Academy was not weak, it was still lacking compared to the Tripod City Academy, which was the cradle of alchemists. If they really fought to the death, the Morning Star Academy would most likely collapse. Of course, the more likely scenario was that the Morning Star Academy realized that the situation wasn't looking good and pushed Lin Yi out for the Tripod City Academy to vent their anger, abandoning the pawn to protect the rook. However, that was based on the premise that Lin Yi was only a student of an ordinary academy. Judging from Lin Yi's feat of going against the tide and defeating Zhang Zili, this assumption was obviously unreliable. Moreover, he was a mystic rank 1 alchemist. With such an important figure, the Morning Star Academy would probably fight to the bitter end, even if it meant perishing indiscriminately. After all, as long as Lin Yi matured, he would be a heavenly protective umbrella. If the Morning Star Academy could receive his full support, it wouldn't be impossible for the Yellow Class Academy to become a Mystic Class Academy in one fell swoop. As long as the Morning Star Academy's 3 magnates weren't stupid, they would definitely protect him at all costs. Therefore, Li Ren's statement of taking full responsibility wasn't out of line. Could it be that Master Lin has made a huge mess of things? Seeing Zhuang Yifan's strange gaze, Li Ren's heart skipped a beat. The difference in their levels was too big. If the other party really wanted to do something to Lin Yi, he wouldn't be able to stop him. A huge mess of things? You could say that. To others, it would indeed be a huge mess of things, but to Master Lin, it's too much of an exaggeration. At most, it's just a small inconvenience. Zhuang Yifan smiled reservedly. He had already given Lin Yi a lot of face by saying this much. It was impossible for him to explain any further. At least, Li Ren definitely didn't have that much face. Small inconvenience. Li Ren was stunned. This was completely different from the information he had just received. Those people had said that Lin Yi had killed 2 chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy. How could this be considered a small inconvenience? Zhuang Yifan had no interest in explaining to him. He turned to Lin Yi and smiled apologetically. Master Lin, I won't disturb you on the ship. I don't think you welcome me. Although he said this, he didn't have any intention of leaving. His intentions were clear. Now that Zhang Zili, whom he had spent so much effort to invite, was dead or alive, if he allowed Lin Yi to slip away, then he would really be screwed. Compared to the grand alchemy plan, his reputation as the president of the alliance was not worth mentioning. Lin Yi looked at the confused Li Ren, then looked at Zhuang Yifan, who was putting on an act. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel helpless. Since Zhuang Yifan was so thick-skinned, he couldn't just play dumb and let him go, could he? He was the guild leader of the alliance, after all, and that would be too much. Moreover, Zhuang Yifan was the president of the alliance. These Huang Stage Academies wouldn't even be able to invite him normally. If he was willing to board the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship, then it would be a great honor for the academy. This was a good opportunity to show off in front of all the other academies. President Zhuang, what are you saying? You're a distinguished guest that no one can invite. Since you're already here, Why don't you board for a while? Otherwise, if word got out, wouldn't it damage the reputation of the Morningstar Academy? Outsiders would say that the Morningstar Academy doesn't know how to behave properly. I wouldn't dare let the Morningstar Academy take this kind of blame. Lin, he said with a smile. Master Lin, it would be impolite of me to refuse. No matter what, I can't tarnish the reputation of the Master Lin He. Zhuang Yifan immediately found Lin Yi to be even more pleasing to the eye. It was rare to see such a super genius. This kid's future was limitless. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.